we ready, Sarah?
Okay, we're live.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Okay, welcome to the Irvington Planning Board meeting of April 8th, 2026. Here for the village is Sarah Palermo, she's the gatekeeper on Zoom, and Maren, the building inspector. Doug? Not here.
Here.
Then is Mary Ann Stessage, the village attorney. Lori Davidowitz. Board member. Dan McGillicuddy, I'm Caesar Manfredi, the chair, and Mike DeFuco. Mike Smith is out tonight. His wife's birthday. I don't know how he managed to not think the planning board is more important. And Zara Egal is also, our alternate is also out tonight. The first thing is the minutes for March 4th, 2026. Mary Ann?
Yeah, I edited it.
I make a motion to approve those minutes of March 4th, 2026. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now, the order for tonight. Number one will be 3 Dow's Lane Special Permit Renewal. Number 2 will be 71 Havermeyer Road. Number 3 would be 1 Heritage Hill Road. Number 4 is Castle Road, lot number 2. Number 5 is 10 South Continent Street. Number 6 is 88 Fargo Lane. Number 7 is 32 South Continent Street. And number 8 is 76 North Broadway, known as Balmer or Maxon. Okay, getting back to number 1, 3 Dow's Lane.
I'll recuse myself.
Oh, okay. Dan McGillicuddy is recusing himself, so it'll be just 3 of us because we don't have an alternate. Hello. Mike,
Sit down, whatever you want to do.
you need to
I'll
speak.
sit down if I can.
All right, then speak into the microphone.
This microphone?
Yeah, bring it right up to you because it's talk straight into it.
You're here to renew your accessory.
You got to speak into, you got real close with that.
Okay, so the protocol is I speak first?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I'm here to renew the accessory apartment permit. Did all my paperwork.
You have to announce your name.
My name is Larry Sheps. I live at 3 Dow's Lane. I've been there since 1999. And I'm a steward of the house. It's a historical house and I take good care of it.
And you're looking for what?
I'm looking to renew the accessory apartment. It lapsed 2 years ago. I had several surgeries 2 years ago, and I've been dealing with that, but I'm back strong now. And I understand the protocols going forward. I was remiss in not renewing it. I apologize for that, but I know what to do 3 years from now. It's on my calendar.
I recall, Ed, that we had a property was before us a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. And there were
That's
things,
correct. They had a bunch of things. That's correct.
and that's all done.
It's all done. They have one little issue, but they filed the permit and they're taking care of it. Met with the contractor yesterday.
Okay,
And we did the inspection also.
okay. Mary Ann, you have anything?
No, I have the resolutions.
No, let me ask,
Yeah.
let me finish. I was wondering if you had any comment.
No issues, no.
Lori,
No comment.
Mike,
No comments.
Sarah, anything on the Zoom?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak and there are no comments in the chat. Whereas in June 2020, Orange Shops received a special permit pursuant to Article 31 of the zoning code for an accessory apartment in the finished space above the existing garage on his property at 3 Dow's Lane. And once the special permit expired on June 3rd, 2023, an applicant did not apply to renew it, even though he was notified by the Irvington Building Department that the special permit expired. In other words, in March 2026, the applicant applied to renew the special permit. And if the application shows that the proposed accessory apartment meets the requirements of zoning code 224-201 subsections A through F, the building inspector conducted an inspection of the proposed accessory apartment in the building in which it is located and reported to the planning board, one, that there was an undocumented propane tank in violation of the Irvington Code, that the accessory apartment was being occupied without a special permit, also in violation of the Irvington Code, and three, the proposed apartment would otherwise complies with the New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code. The planning board conducted a public hearing on the application on April 8th, 2026. The planning board has considered the effect of the proposed accessory apartment on parking, traffic, noise, congestion, and appearance of the neighborhood, and found that the apartment should not adversely affect the character of the neighborhood. Type 2 action under secret therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that an accessory apartment special permit be issued to Lawrence Sheps for an apartment in his garage at 3 Dow's Land, subject to the following conditions. One, the propane tank must be legalized. I know you're supposed to do. The accessory apartment special permit shall expire 3 years from the date below, but may be renewed by the planning board upon timely application under Article 31. I'm sorry. And it shall expire automatically upon change of ownership of the building. I'm not crying, I'm not upset, I don't.
Did you finish?
Yeah, she did.
Okay. I neglected to ask if there's people in the room. Did anybody in the room have a comment on this application? Okay,
And everybody else.
we did that.
Okay, sorry.
Mary Ann, you done? Anybody have questions on the resolution?
No question.
I make a motion to approve the resolution as read.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And let the record show there's 2 blank spaces on the resolution. They are not no's. Mike Smith is not here and Dan is in the queue. So only 3 votes yes. Okay. Thank you very much. Stay well and get better and enjoy the evening. It's still sunlight.
Thank you very much.
71 Havermeyer Road. There was anybody?
Yes, I'm hoping you can hear me and see me.
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. And am I loud enough?
Yes.
Good.
Ways.
So I will share and start talking. Yeah.
You need to identify yourself.
Yeah, well, I will. That's a start. So Patty Steinschneider, Gotham Design, Gotham Design Planning and Development, representing the new owner of 71 Havermeyer Road, who's recently closed. She was contract vendee for the previous owners. They've swapped houses basically, and the new people are very eager to get going. I think we've made some progress since the last meeting. If I can advance my slide, yeah. All this kind of stuff, I think you can probably skip over. Let's see. This just shows, context. It's a house in the middle of a good-sized property surrounded by other properties that are large near the golf course. What we did since the last time we were before you is we went to the zoning board to get satisfaction of the zoning board. We made a number of changes to what we had. The specific changes were we reduced the size of the proposed parking we were adding and eliminated another existing parking. So we got the coverage that we were exceeding the site down fairly significantly. On this sheet, we have the tabulations, but I think what you guys want me to use usually is this one. This is the sheet that was done for what we've actually gotten the variance for. On the left here, you see we were originally looking for a coverage of 8,786, which was a 7.6% coverage, 12.3% greater than allowed. When we made those modifications, we reduced it to 8,102 square feet, which is a 7% coverage. That puts us 3.6 greater than allowed, and the zoning board granted us the variance. At the zoning board meeting, there was some concern about that lots of coverage means lots of house. So they asked us to do an analysis showing how the allowable floor area of the house we were proposing with the additions would compare to the neighbors, and using the FAR, because that's the best tool that I think Irvington has for determining size of that. We're the second lowest FAR in the 18 houses surrounding. So that seemed to satisfy the zoning board. Here's the site plan just showing, this is the site protection showing that we made the modifications to the tree protection and the other things that we were asked to do. On that, we have the stormwater plan. We have, since the last meeting, Hudson Engineering has gotten involved. I think Han has made it really clear what they're looking for. The test pits have been done, so they've got that. And I think engineer to engineer is going to make a lot more sense than having me in the middle, and they'll work that out. Han will see the drawings actually from Hudson Engineering, which I think is what they would prefer anyway. Just really quickly on what we're doing is an addition to the west end of the existing house. We have a usable basement. It's about half above grade. The floor above that is a primary suite with a sitting room, bedroom, bathroom, and closet. There's a new family entrance that connects that to the existing house. Glass doors on the front, glass doors in the back. You come out, this area of terrace will be reworked. A staircase takes you up half a level from the entrance into the addition. And then there's another half light up that takes you to the roof above the family entry, where it can be, a nice roof deck, go and sit outside and watch the sunset. These are just some elevations of the house. This is looking from the west. Actually, I went too fast with that. This is back of the house. I wonder if I can go backwards. Nope. Okay, I'm gonna have to treat front view. Yeah, okay, that's good. So here's the front of the house, the existing mass of the house here. Here's the family entry. Here's the addition that we're building for the new primary suite. And then the back of the house, the side of the house in the left corner there that you don't really see because it's up against the hillside. And then some sections showing, how this basically works in a volume wise. It's we've gone, nice ceilings at a 9-foot and 10-foot height. Another thing that has evolved a lot since the last time we were before you, Susan Janchill, our landscape architect, has responded to Suzanne Nolan's comments, and has, provided, some modifications on the selection of plantings. But I think the main thing that was most interest was what trees are there now are going to be affected by this and what the replacement value of that is. So here we've numbered 7 trees which are in the vicinity of the construction. These are all the trees within vicinity of construction. Number 1 is remaining. Number 2 is remaining. Number 3 will be lost. That's a relatively small tree. Number 4 actually does not exist. So that was on our survey from 2015. At some point, it went away. Number 5 is a tree we're showing to be removed. So 3 and 5 at this point would be removed. 5, we've been asked by the owner to give some thought to the way we're doing the retaining wall to see if it's possible to save. But at this point, we're assuming that it'll be lost. 6 is remaining, 7 is remaining. So it's really just the loss of tree 3 and 5. Here's the existing tree evaluation that Susan did for Suzanne. And I think it makes it pretty clear that we're not taking down a forest of trees. So hopefully that is good. Just some quick photos so you can remember that it's kind of a nice I've been using the word cottage. People challenge it. They say it's kind of big for a cottage, but I think Newport. So, it's a really interesting house in a little kind of ravine area, which is quite charming. And I think what we've done with the way the massing will work very nicely to be something. But of course, that's going to be in the venue of the Architectural Review Board. So unless you guys have specific questions, that's pretty much our presentation.
Thank you, Patty. And the submittal that's before the planning board, it's essentially the same as what was approved by the ZBA for coverage.
Yes,
Okay.
and it's basically the same as the one you saw last month, except they removed the, that big parking area in question.
On the driveway.
On the driveway.
The tree demonstration is shown to be
The
removed.
trees are always there.
All right, Patty, just make sure the trees are properly numbered
Yep.
so that when building inspector goes out, he doesn't have to get wonder which tree is what number, what's coming out, and what's being saved.
Sure.
Many years ago, there was an unfortunate incident where the trees that was to be saved were all cut, and the ones that were supposed to be cut were all saved.
No. Oh, that's awful. It's amusing, but it's awful. I thought you were going to say that the real tragedy was years ago when we numbered and put tags on maybe 1,000 trees for Dearman Park. That was a tremendous effort, but we did save a tremendous number of trees too. So I guess it was good.
Okay, thank you. Any comment from the Zoom, Sarah?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak and there are no comments in the chat.
Anybody in the room? Lori?
The only thing I'll say is, hope you shared with the new homeowners that we don't like segmenting. So it's great that they're doing this addition, but if there's anything else they were thinking of or considering, it would be best to bring that to us sooner than later.
I don't think right now, I'm not even convinced we're going to get everything that we've got on the plans. Construction costs are really kind of scary right now. So there's been no conversation about any kind of expansion. I also don't, I mean, this is pretty generous as a house at this point. So I think they should be very comfortable with how it turns out.
Thank you.
I have no questions.
I have none. Mike?
No questions.
We asked the Zoom, we asked the, all right. There's subject to certain circumstances in it. It'll be in the resolution. Okay. All right.
Was in January 2026, Gibbon Catherine Dunham applied for site development plan approval to construct an addition, parking, driveway, and patio reconfiguration, associated stormwater treatment and planting at their house at 71 Havermeyer Road. Whereas proposed improvements would require a variance for coverage, which the zoning board of appeals eventually granted on March 24th, 2026, after the applicants revised their plans to reduce the coverage by 684 square feet. Han reviewed the plans and in memoranda dated January 5th, February 2nd, and March 3rd identified a number of issues which were largely addressed in subsequent submissions. Suzanne Nolan, the village's landscape consultant, reviewed the plans and in memoranda dated January 5th, February 2nd, and March 3rd made several recommendations that were mostly addressed in subsequent submissions. And was the planning board held a public hearing on the application on January 7th, February 4th, March 4th, and April 7th. It's type 2 action under secret, therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants the application for site development plan approval for the improvements reflected by the drawings entitled Alterations to Downey DeCarlo Residence prepared by Gotham Design. And that they're all enumerated and the plans prepared by Hudson Engineering, and the plans prepared by Aspect 120 Landscape Architecture, subject to complying with the items in Han's memo and Nolan's memo, both dated April 3rd, 2026.
All set? Mary Ann? All set?
What?
Well done.
Yeah.
Any questions on the resolution?
Nope.
I make a motion to approve the resolution as read. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Okay, thank you very much, Patty. We'll see you another time.
You got it. Thank you much. Have a great evening.
All right. Okay, this is number 3, 1 Heritage Hill Road. Lori Davidowitz is recusing herself. That'll be just the three of us, Dan, myself, and Mike.
Hello. Hi,
Well,
my name is, are we ready? Sorry.
Yeah, we're ready.
Linda Daniels. I'm the architect for One Heritage Hill Road. We presented last month to the planning board for seeking a FAR variance for the property here, the existing house. We have received your comments. We've also received the report from Han Engineering. So we've gone through their items, reviewed them, understand very clearly what they are asking for. Many of the comments currently relate to site engineering and landscaping, which at this moment we've retained Hudson Engineering to complete that work for us. We've been advised by them to seek this variance first so that, we're not doing double work potentially. So I'd like to go through the changes that we've made, the differences from the last meeting that we had and the clarifications that we've made. I think that nothing has changed in terms of our proposal, in terms of the bulk, the overall setbacks, the lot coverage, nothing has changed. We did take into consideration Han's comments regarding the setbacks and just making the drawings a little bit more tidy and clear. So that's something that we've implemented to hopefully just confirm with you guys that the building as it is within the lot lines. We're not seeking a variance for that. The FAR again is what we're looking at. So in addition to making some of those more nomenclature and graphic changes in the drawings, we wanted to include some diagrams to kind of lay out our case on why we're seeking the FAR variance and your approval to go to the zoning board to receive this. We've created a diagram that shows the allowable FAR, which is a 9,529 square feet. We are pointing out that with the basement, again, sorry about this, just the background, we are seeking the FAR variance because we are over our square footage with the basement. Just given the site conditions, we have 3 front yards, which is lovely, but it's requiring us to include the basement in the FAR calculations, which half of the basement is bermed, half of it, all of it is actually 8 foot or less ceiling. So it's a quite compromised space. Obviously, we will try to utilize it, but I think that the FAR is highly driven by the basement, which is why we created these diagrams to kind of clarify that. So with the basement, we will be about 38.9% over. Without the basement, we're about 9% over, which based on our neighborhood analysis, we think that's pretty much in range of the variances that people seek. At the same time, also consider, half a good portion of that is in the basement, about 3,000 square feet of that. So this proposed number includes the garage that we're looking to include, as well as that loft space above. And in addition to that, we just wanted to highlight the effective habitable floor area, so the actual usable space. As you know, the building's a historic stone building. The walls range in thickness from 18 to 36 inches, which pretty much compromises our FAR calculations if we're considering the exterior envelope being the contributing factor. So when we take that into account, obviously we don't have a wall-less building, but just taking that into account for argument's sake, we are actually under or like within range of what we believe is pretty normal. Proposed without the basement, we would be under. Proposed with the basement, which is what we're seeking the variance for, we are still a little bit over. So it's kind of an unfortunate condition that we're in, but we hope that at least clarifies that stance that we have. And again, we fully anticipate having to go through this process again to get the site engineering. We're trying to spearhead this zoning board review so that we can just verify whether or not we can build the garage. Here's the proposed site plan. I'm sorry, I did not share that before. So again, trying to delineate exactly where this exists. We've done an enlarged plan for it as well. And so if we can get your approval for going to the zoning board, we will definitely, if that variance is approved or is not approved, and we can at least move forward with the definitive solution and direction, we'll, onboard Hudson, as well as a landscape architect. We've gotten some comments as well from a landscape reviewer. So we can definitely include those as well in our next submission for the planning board. And I think in addition, we've gone through their comments, they're very valid comments, on engineering's comments. So those will also be implemented if they weren't at this point, once the zoning board is approved. We also, this is maybe tertiary, but we had a minor discussion about this last time. It was brought up about the massing and the bulk and materiality. Of course, it's not in your purview, but we kind of reflected on that. We just wanted to share at least the massing, and so you can understand how this will tie into the main building. We don't think, of course, the garage within its bulk fits within the setback lines, but we do think that it's a nice addition, obviously, for an amenity or day-to-day use. But I think that it does make sense to have the loft above. It's an open space. Again, the basement ceiling heights are quite low. We're including attic space, which also we're taking into account square footage within the eaves and the dormers. So I think that it is a nice kind of pure space that we don't actually, we're not afforded in the original building. So just sharing that with you guys as well. So maybe you have some additional comments or thoughts on it, but we think that it turned out nicely, moving it from the siding to the stone.
Okay, thank you very much. That was a very thorough presentation, and you did all that without taking a single breath. Yes, we think you should go to the ZBA. And some of the things you talked about holding off on, you want to make sure you can get the ZBA approved before the expenses of these other things. Some of them, just to take note to be sure, you have dark sky lighting. You need to confirm that.
Yes, for sure.
You need to do Doug Hahn's memo. You know that. You already said that. And it's okay to settle up with Susan Nolan, our arborist, with the trees, and come back with after you have successfully come to a conclusion with.
Yeah, that's great. I think just another point on that, from what I can tell with the site being there and with our survey where they did survey a lot of trees, I think we should be okay. We do want to keep as many trees as possible. So we did navigate our driveway and the garage just to try to preserve that. But I appreciate your support on this.
Yeah. Any comment?
I have no comments.
Mike?
No comments.
Sarah, any Zoom?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak, and there are no comments in the chat.
Anybody in person? Please identify yourself.
Lori Dabrowitz, 3 Stearns Ridge. I was just going to say that driveway is massive and that's a bit unsightly. So I was wondering if there was any consideration to maybe taking part of the driveway out, particularly not the driveway on the garage side, the other side where there's also an additional parking area.
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know if you were in the last meeting, and I unfortunately don't have a rendering of this now, but I believe you're talking about this asphalt drive. We are keeping the thoroughfare just for access of the site, but we are replacing the asphalt drive with just a lawn. It's going to be grass, and it'll just be tidied up a little bit. I think, if we can slim down the driveway slightly, like we'll see what Hudson, if they think that it's necessary, but I think this at least will be a lot more have a lot more appeal and have that aesthetic that I think that maybe your concern is raising.
Yes, she
And-
nodded yes.
Sorry, and one more thing is that we're looking to replace it with pavers, because right now it's asphalt. I think, again, pending Hudson's review and comment, if it makes sense for these to be permeable, you know, we'll have to see with their recommendation, but that's at least the plan, is that we would go with a paver. So that should also help a little bit with that aesthetic.
Okay. The citizen's comment was nodding yes to your alterations.
Great.
Okay, anything else on Zoom?
Patty has his hand raised.
Yeah, I'm obviously supportive of the
Identify yourself, you never do.
Schneider, previous partner in Westwood Development, which was this mountain. I think this is great that they're going to keep the house. I think that's really heroic in many ways. The only comment I would have, which follows a little bit from Lori's, is that to me, pulling the garage forward on the entrance side of the house kind of puts you in an awkward position trying to get cars into it. And I think it kind of shields the entrance feeling as you come in that way. And it's almost as if you slid it back, you'd get more room to be able to pull directly into the garage, and potentially, instead of just having the shed dormer and the windows facing east, you could get glimpses out facing west past the end of the building and see the Hudson River from the studio space, which would be really great. But I think it's wonderful that this is happening. So,
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point. And to be honest with you, we studied the garage being on another side of the building. Just given the setbacks, we can't fit it anywhere else. And I think you're right. If we do actually still get some views of the water from the garage, as the loft space as it is. So I think that we tried our best, and I've redone this multiple times. So I think understood, but yeah, with the setbacks, it just wasn't quite feasible.
Okay. All right, Patty.
thanks.
Okay, I think we're done. We checked with the Zoom and we checked with the audience. Any other further questions?
I have no further questions.
Okay, go to the ZBA and hopefully you'll be back with the 3 or 4 things that I mentioned,
You got it.
and we can move forward.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Number 4, Castle Road, lot number 2.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. My name is Andrew Loy. I'm a senior designer at Shapeless Studio Architecture and Interiors. I am here with a big team. Jess Henshaw and Andrea Fisk, the principals of our firm, are also in the Zoom room today, as well as the principal of our landscape architect, Dirtworks, Alex Hart, and Jim Anachiarico, our civil engineer from Cronin. We just wanted all hands on deck today, since this is our first meeting before you all. But as a team, we're representing the property owners, Jennifer Pappas and Tarek Maharan. And we're here to present the proposal for lot 2 on Castle Road, which was created as part of the Marvera Corporation subdivision, which had been approved by the village in October of 2022. I'm going to share our drawings here. Here's the 3-lot development, and we're kind of talking about this center one here. Again, this borders Castle Road to the north and Halsey Pond to the south. And this is 1.4 acres here in the center. So to our understanding, the western lot over here has recently been under review by the board, while the eastern lot, as far as we know, have no current plans for development. Let's see, the northern portion of the site, there's an existing stone retaining wall dating back to the Beltsuver estate. And while it is not a designated historic landmark in the village, we intend to preserve it as an important backdrop for our landscape design. It was a key element that initially drew the homeowners to this particular lot, and it's kind of a nice reminder of the history of the particular area. We zoom in quickly to our zoning diagram here. In terms of our buildable area, we're bound by a 20-foot utility sewer easement cutting across the site from west to east here. It's 20 feet across, as well as a 40-foot conservation buffer along the southern edge adjacent to Halsey Pond Park. And this conservation buffer had been established in 2022 in coordination with the village to protect the park's scenic, historic, and ecological character. And we had included a copy of this document with our application materials. And kind of in support of those goals listed in that agreement, we are working with Dirtworks Landscape and Cronin Civil Engineering, who are also here tonight. And as a team, we're not requesting any variances to that conservation agreement. I'll pull open our tree removals plan real quick. As part of an initial analysis we did of the site, existing trees had been surveyed for health, invasive species identified for removal, and new plantings are proposed with a focus on native species. The strategies were intended to maintain the visual continuity of Halsey Pond Park while improving stormwater management and reducing erosion. And in a moment, I can invite the landscape and civil teams to speak to some of this in greater detail. But from an architectural standpoint, we're proposing a single-family residence on the site consisting of 2 stories plus a below-grade cellar, along with an attached garage. You can see here in the elevation to the left, a carport, and a swimming pool in the backyard. The material palette of the house includes stained wood siding, which is what you see here with the vertical hatch, along with sections of stone veneer and a slate tile roof. The footprint of the home, and if I go back to the zoning diagram, the footprint of the home fully fits within the primary building area. This had kind of been demarcated in the 2022 subdivision plan that had been approved by the village. And then the swimming pool fits within the secondary building area here. Again, that was approved for this use in 2022. The proposed floor area is 5,805 square feet, which was below the allowable FAR of 7,605. And to our knowledge, the design complies with all the zoning requirements, setbacks, height, and lot coverage. And we're not requesting any variances as part of this application. So I think that covers the architecture. I'll turn it over to Alex Hart from the landscape architect, if he's here and has anything else to add. I think Jim also had 1 or 2 comments, and he's our civil engineer.
Anybody representing this application that wants to be promoted to a panelist, please click the raise hand button.
Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
That was for people on Zoom.
Okay.
And we're waiting for what?
Alex, did you have anything to add from a landscape perspective?
Yes, hello. Thanks, Andrew, for that introduction. And we are happy to discuss anything that is of interest. But just briefly, to summarize, we have looked very closely at that conservation buffer. I'm pleased to report that not only do we take that seriously, but our client does as well. And so we want to thank you for pulling that up. Meet those requirements, not just the letter of the law, but really the spirit of it, and create a place that is ecologically strong as well as just aesthetically attractive as well. And so we have our planting selected here. We saw the preliminary comments from the landscape consultant, and we don't see any issues with those. I think those were very valid, and we can comply with those. So that will be certainly included in. And we also received the comment about more specific plant throughout the rest of the site, which we'll do. And I will say it is certainly our intent to maintain the character of the place, even though the conservation buffer stops there, and we'll have some other open areas. It will still feel like a natural place that's there, and that is our clients' wishes as well as our own. We're happy to fix, but I don't want to go over anything that you already know. So maybe I'll stop there unless there are any specific questions for us.
Yeah, the main thing, our Susan Nolan, I'm sure you might have spoken with her. She was talking about some of the larger plantings may be better off with, instead of 2 big trees, maybe 4 smaller ones, because of the nature of the soil. Planting a bigger tree may be more of an issue than a smaller tree, but you can discuss that with her. And match up to the weather. So,
Yeah.
I'm sure she mentioned those 2 things to you. If not, those are the things.
Yes, exactly.
He mentioned to me. Okay. All right.
Yep.
I have a lot of other questions.
No problem at all. Yeah.
Okay, that was it for the specifics, and you'll be able to straighten that out with Suzanne. Okay.
Great.
Is there any further presentation?
I can talk about our drainage design if you'd like. Jim Anacarico with Cronin
Why
Engineering.
don't you do the drainage?
Sure. So back when you recall how much time we all spent on this subdivision for Marvera years ago. We dug test holes back then at Doug Hahn's request. And so we didn't have to do that again. We had good test holes for drainage. We did some infiltration testing, and what we did for this design was we're capturing the runoff from all the proposed impervious areas, and that turns out to be 22 Cultex that we're proposing to install. We'll connect all the roof leaders from the house to those Cultex. We'll also capture all the runoff from the driveway. That will be captured by some trench drains in front of the garage doors, and they will be routed to the back yard where the Cultex are located. We will have some pre-treatment in the form of sumps in the yard drains to capture any silt so they don't clog up the Cultex. And we'll have basically a pop-up overflow in the Cultex, just for, in case they ever do overflow. Received Doug Hahn's memo today, although there are 25 comments. Most of them have to do with the pool code, easily addressable via notes on the plans, which we can do. One of the comments was that that they're saying that we cannot locate the footing drain in the conservation buffer. The only reason I did that was because we just can't make it via gravity without getting it slightly into the buffer. I don't, if there's a way we can do that, allow that to happen, I think that's the best thing to do. Otherwise, I think we'd be stuck trying to pump the footing drains, and that's just something that I wouldn't recommend, and I don't think Doug would even actually recommend that. So if we can have some sort of discussion, I guess, with the board and or Doug and Ed, that's probably something we should have. Again, it's really just a necessity based on the elevation of the basement and needing to gravity drain the footing drains.
Well, I think that'll be an interesting discussion because
I know Suzanne mentioned that, or Doug and Suzanne mentioned it was technically a structure. I mean, it's basically a 4-foot or 4-inch diameter pipe with just some riprap at the end. I can't see how it would really,
well, other than it's not supposed to be there.
Well,
I'm sure.
We were able to, yeah, as you know, we were able to get them. We were able to not go into the conservation buffer over on lot 3 just because we had that kind of real estate and we had that kind of grade. But in this case, we just don't.
Sometimes necessity is the mother of invention. So. Okay. Let's go back to the original presentation. I have several questions if you're finished with your presentation.
Sure.
Bring up the site plan. Okay. If you're finished with your presentation, we could ask some questions, okay?
Yep.
You're done.
I'm finished, yes.
Yeah, we're finished.
The electric panel. I'm glad you took it off the curb. Unfortunately, it's in the side yard setback. Ed, is that correct?
So it appears to be. It's not shown on the architectural, it's shown on the engineer drawing.
So that we would not want you to have to go for a variance for the electric panel, so.
Except to move it a few feet further away from the road.
And away from the driveway.
Away from the driveway.
We're very pleased that it's nowhere near the road. It's in the side yard setback. I like the idea that you.
On that then, Hans memo says, the electric panel should be shown on all site plans. If located in the setback, a variance will be required. So you're saying you don't want them to get a variance to get it out of the setback. So that's a variation to the Han memo.
Okay, thank you. I see you got your construction trailer located. We were going to ask for that. I'm glad you saw that. The street, Castle Road is a very narrow street. And obviously any construction requires workers to come to the site to work. Is there any chance of on-site temporary parking, maybe inside that walled-in area up there?
I would say so.
If you could work on that, that would be appreciative.
Sure, that could certainly be the staging area, yes.
Yeah. The fences, maybe I missed it, but slide that up a little bit, and the only reference to a fence was a deer fence on the Halsey Pond side of the buffer zone. And I'm not sure what your fencing plan is.
So fence elevations are shown here. We're to look.
Well, it's uncertain to me where the fences are going to be. I mean, you have on the plan I saw, you have a fence on the Halsey Pond side of the buffer. Does that fence go all around the buffer?
Correct. Yeah. So we're connecting to the house here, wrapping around the lot line, and looping back to the house.
That's all deer fence.
That's correct.
Correct.
The one fence you just showed me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the rest of the property from outside the blue line, I guess that's north towards Castle Road, there are no fences.
Correct.
Okay, and the pool fence, and I didn't see a pool fence.
That could be considered the pool fence if they correct the notes that
Okay, the notes include
house being
the house
locked.
being secured
Yeah.
and blah, blah. Okay. Now, buffer, the interior part of the buffer, we'd like to see some kind of markings that it's the buffer, maybe stones, maybe some. I believe in the original subdivision, that was a requirement. Some kind of marking on the interior, the house side of the buffer that delineates the edge of the buffer. Doesn't have to be a fence. It could be stones. It could be stakes. Something that is clear that that's the buffer. The buffer starts, so that a future homeowner would not be inclined to enter the buffer because it's there. Nothing saying that you don't go there.
I'm sure we could incorporate something like that. Is that something that you'd like to see in a future meeting
Yes.
to approve? Okay. Yeah, that shouldn't be an issue.
All right, and according to the line of construction, you have October start date. October is not traditionally is not a good time to start planting. Availability at nurseries is less than in the spring. Any thought to doing the buffer earlier?
We'll obviously work with you. Sometimes when we know that we're going to go into a certain period, we will contact the nurseries and make sure the stock that we need set aside, and we've had success with that in the past.
Okay.
So
I'll
we're
keep that
trying
in
to figure out
mind.
yeah, it's a good point, and we would definitely make sure that that's happening. We don't want to get the bottom of the barrel.
Yes, it's two things: availability at the nursery and a better time to plant. Maybe it's winter is better. I don't know. Conservation easement, Marianne, they said that we filed it. You see, conservation easement is officially filed. Is it?
Jim, did you get a copy of that when it was filed?
I'd have to look in my records.
Yeah,
It's 4 years ago, 3 years ago. So
see if you can find
I
it.
can check. Sure. Yeah.
Make
I
it
believe
part
it.
of
I
that.
believe it was because
I believe it was too. I couldn't find it in the file for the subdivision.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure David Steinmetz did that, and I'll find it.
The one you included was the one, before it was stamped filed, so.
Okay. House size. The house size actually maxes out all available coverage. I think there's 7 square feet left over. And you need to understand that, as Lori mentioned in an earlier application, coming back next year because you forgot to put a patio in or whatever, is not going to work because that's segmenting. So you need to look at the future. If there's some future additions that you're thinking about, especially since the pathway to the pool from the front is mulch, and I have a suspicion that someday that mulch pathway would become paving stone of some sort, which would add to coverage, would put you over the coverage that's allowed.
And so the thinking was with that mulch path, that was just for maintenance of the pool equipment. There is a pathway through the carport, which is what we're showing here. So we're trying to plan for things going into the future. So we're not needing to add things like that.
Well, I hope you realize that coming back next year for another 100 square feet is not going to work.
Okay.
Because that's segmenting, and we look very unkindly to that. My other comment about the house size, on east and west, it abuts the side yard setbacks. And if there's ever a thought of anything in that setback, you're going to need a variance for the setback because the house is literally on the setback line. So if there's any future thought to put anything out on the east or west side, it's not gonna happen. Hello? Any thought on that?
And again, we're trying to give our clients exactly what they want now, and I don't foresee them wanting to increase the footprint of the house going into the future. I feel like we're trying to kind of maximize the footprint and try and keep the height of the building low, just keep everything on one floor just so they can age into the house. So I don't think they would be interested in reducing the footprint or increasing the height in order to give us an additional setback on the sides.
The pool equipment, are you satisfied with the location and you're not going to want to move it because it's invasive to the leisure atmosphere of the pool? The pool equipment seems to be in an area that may be intrusive in terms of noise or what have you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a screen wall wrapping it here.
How big is the wall?
There was a question, how big is the wall around the pool equipment?
Oh, just tall enough to conceal the equipment. So, I mean, 3 feet, say.
And how far is it from the pool?
That's just the line we're showing here. So pool equipment is on this pad. The screen wall, garden wall, wraps the equipment here in alignment with the pool beyond.
Yeah, I mean, my suggestion is figure out how to move that, because I can tell you now that's going to be a problem for the owners. It's very close. It's going to be very loud. That filter is going to run all the time, and a 3-foot wall is not going to do anything.
Okay, that's a good point. We'll think about it.
My other comment was, this goes back to Caesar. Less concerned about coming back for more coverage, but just alterations in general. I want to be happy with what they're getting. Between the mulch and all the grass around the pool, that's a lot of kind of a maintenance difficulty for a pool. That grass will die every summer, flashing. Reconfiguring patio, maybe getting the pool equipment in a better location might be easier. The mulch is going to be in the pool every week. Looks really nice, practically. Well, that's just a suggestion.
There's no patio directly adjacent to the pool if you wanted to sit and buy the pool. The patio is behind the house.
Yeah, I can tell you personally that grass dies every year.
Yeah.
About 2 feet in perimeter.
We'll think about it. Yeah, I mean, right now we have the coping cap just bordering the lawn. Maybe there's a planting strategy that we could take where it's perennial plantings or something as opposed to a mown lawn.
Yeah, more just a suggestion so that they don't, come back and say, "Oh, we want to move this patio over here now."
I understand.
Like Mike says, there's really no patio directly adjacent to the pool. Okay. I think you should give that some thought because obviously Mike has some experience with that. All right. Let me see. Elevations. And there's no elevations for the pool. What's the issue with pool by others?
They have some work to do. It's in Doug's memo.
And it's clear?
It's clear.
You reviewed Doug's memo and it's clear to you?
Yeah, I mean, we just received it. I saw it for the first time this afternoon, so we'll review it with the team and integrate those comments.
But I reviewed it, Caesar, and it's clear to me.
It's nothing new, Jim.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Any comment from the board?
No comment.
I have none. Right.
No comments.
Any comment from Zoom?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak, and there were no comments in the chat.
Anybody in person in the room? Okay. Thank you very much, and I guess you have your homework. I think we made it clear. If there's any questions that was not clear, please ask them now.
No questions.
Yep, appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much, you all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, this next one is 10 South Continent Street.
And you gotta face the, canister. Or you gotta face it to the camera so it can be seen.
Got it. Although I think I'll get through this. This was a suggestion because they did come out small. Small.
That's why we needed it.
Yeah. Hopefully it's too small for me.
You may have to raise that a little bit.
You can take it,
Sorry.
you can take it out.
No, I think it goes through, right?
Yes, it's got its seat close.
All right, we'll see where we're at. All right, guys, I want to introduce myself. I'm Dennis. I'm a 50-year resident of Irvington.
I didn't get your name. I know it's Dennis. But
Dennis Rubik.
Oh, Rubik.
Yes. 50 plus year resident of Irvington and owner of this beautiful building that I want to see if I can bookmark two driveways on either side, or bookend two driveways on either side of the building. Currently, I'll give you a little history. I know you probably know some history of it, but built in 1889, I'll fast forward now, someone subdivided in 1948 to 7 units on a street full of single-family residents, all of which have at least a one-car garage or modified garage and a one-car driveway at least. We are 7 units and only have one space. We share a driveway with our neighbors very nicely, and the one space is not enough, especially after the winter we just had. Getting cars out, tenants that are older tend to not, I have to end up shoveling them out of the snow. And if they go on vacation or if they have some stuff, it'd be a good spot to have a couple spaces available for these things and for moving and for all sorts of benefits. I think that arriving to those spaces gives us multitude of benefits because we currently have one driveway that if I had to really just resurface it, I can get a street opening permit without coming here and be done with it. I'm trying to see what we can do to improve it and really solve some problems that we've had over the years. Since we did the Main Street pedestrian ramps that are there, this Continent Street turnaround is no longer usable. Turning radius is not there anymore. So people come to our street and the trucks back into the apron and pull the blacktop off or whatever. There's always an issue making it a tripping hazard. I was, like I mentioned earlier, I was out. I couldn't walk. I was in a walker for a while. We have another neighbor in a walker, someone who's legally blind, a lot of people with mobility issues, on top of children, on top of pets walking down there. I'd really love to solve that issue for sure, but in doing that, come to you and say, not doing a segment, I think would show you the whole master plan of what I'd like to do. The problems that I've seen with this building, as much as I love it, is when people move in and out, deliveries, senior vans, or whatever the reason, the entrance to the road is blocked by these spaces that are oversized. We talk about 9.5 by 20 foot spaces in Irvington. I actually physically measured all the spaces on the street. None of them are conforming. In fact, they're 7'2" wide, which is I could lay down in pretty much and be safe, but still not 9.5 feet, which is fine. But the spaces are 22, some are 16, some are 17. So we're adding, we can gain more than 19 feet. We can make it 19 and a few inches, but I wanted to keep that entrance to the building a 5 foot pathway so that people can come in and out easily and not have to maneuver between the cars. The new driveway would have us eliminate one space on the street to gain 2 on-site, not on-street parking, which I think is beneficial to the street as well. Because what we have there is lots of the business owners park their cars there, which is fine. A lot of non-residents park there, which is great. Welcome to Irvington. And a lot of people that have the village pass from other streets park there because their streets are not as accessible as ours. So we end up having me or my tenants parking on Main Street or at the end of the street by Barney Park instead of closer to the property because every house on that whole block has a driveway. There's no reason not to park in the driveway. So having that pathway there, less people coming out and having the new curb cut would mirror both sides and creating, because right now our garbage is 2 feet lower and recycling is 2 feet. And in the wintertime, it gets slippery and I'm always worried that someone's going to fall. Having a flat surface there will make it a lot safer and a lot more organized. And I think that's, I mean, I have a couple things here, but I'd love to hear some questions or answer some questions. You might
Well,
have.
you have a picture of what you want to do with it.
Yes, I do, but you're not going to see it very easily.
We saw it in the plans that online you can see it.
Oh, good. Oh, good. And it's, hopefully it's not too impressive. It's not too bad. I've spoken to the neighbors immediately around me.
You show the south side where the north side is existing.
Yes, south side would be
South
new.
side. And there's grading issues.
Correct.
And you need to show the elevations there.
Correct.
And what it does to the neighbor to the south. When you
Correct.
change the elevations, there's no representation of how that affects the neighbor.
Yeah, it's going to be 3 mesa blocks tall, which is about 2 feet. About,
Yeah, but the neighbor's property also slopes with yours. Now,
Correct.
if you bring yours up, there's going to be an impact on the neighbor.
100%. That will follow that line. Otherwise, first I wanted to come here for you to see what your thoughts were. Obviously, I have a lot of homework to do as well.
You do, but let me caution you ahead of time, before you go ahead and do all that.
Correct.
This is a tough approve. This is a tough thing. You need a side yard,
Right, the variance.
setback and probably coverage. It's all coverage. You need a coverage.
Parking is covered, you need to do a coverage calculation,
Correct.
most likely you go.
Yes, that's why I figured I calculated. I'm going to do a closed system there, so there'll be no perk test at all.
And literally, those 2 cars to the south are practically in the front yard of the neighbor to the south.
Correct.
I wouldn't want it.
I spoke to both of them and they were both okay with it. And I'm forsythia will all be planted. There'll be privacy there as well. I left a lot of space there for planting along the house on both sides, so nothing's connected to the house or the property line.
Yeah, and the 2-car parking to the north,
Yes,
some of that is on the north property.
correct. It's when this subdivision was done by the late Chuck Pateman back in the early 80s. He built the 3 houses on Main Street and the house that's the neighbor to the south.
In the past, if you show us a plan
Yep.
that's on somebody else's property, you're not going to.
Of course not. No, of course not.
We're verifying that
Yes,
you're on the other, and we're not going to do that. So you can't show that on the plan.
I will.
I mean, in fact, if you have whatever reason it's there, I mean, we don't like to see an approved plan on somebody else's property.
Correct. I understand. That's what actually was one of the comments from Han Engineering to get that letter, which they're all for it.
In terms of the parking, only the trustees can approve taking a parking space away.
Correct. So I gotta go to zoning and them, which I figure that's why I get the ideas of where we sit and be ready to answer all those questions from them as well.
Before you go to the zoning, we have to know what the coverage situation is.
Yeah.
So work on the coverage.
Yeah.
Work on doing a site plan, showing setbacks.
Yeah.
And I think before you go to the zoning board, I think you should approach the trustees too.
Right.
Make sure they understand that variances are involved. Because I wouldn't want you,
Do all that work?
I wouldn't want you to go to the zoning board and get denied. Because the trustees didn't approve it yet.
I understand.
It's going to be a tough approval if we get there.
It's a lot of-
And we go through time and expense to get a no at the end.
I know, that's why this is strictly just for us to start a discussion. I didn't expect
And I can warn you that it'll be a tough yes at the end. Because,
from this board.
well, if you got a lot of coverage, it's the ZBA for a parking space. It's not like a hardship that they give variances because of hardships. And I was out there and the middle of the proposed parking area
Yes.
is right on the line of 2 spaces. So
That's why the spacing of those spaces, they would be restriped to form that access path, and the 4 space would be one. They'd all fit out to
You
9 feet.
need to show that to the
Yeah.
trustees.
Yeah, I agree.
because just looking at it, looks like, because it's in the middle of 2 spaces,
Yes,
it looks like you're taking 2 spaces. So
Absolutely.
that's up to the trustees to figure out.
understand.
That may be your first hurdle before you
Yeah, I think that I agree. I think
get
it might
any
be the
further on anything.
Right.
And recognizing and making them understand that there's coverage involved,
Mhm.
there's a next door neighbor involved, there's side yard setbacks involved.
Yep. I believe if I really had to narrow it, we're 1 foot off the sideline right now. We need to be 4 feet. So if we push it towards the house and we might not even need it at all.
I don't know if you have enough room for a car in front of the house.
Oh, right now it's 23 feet wide. It's clear. So we could definitely work with that. I absolutely will go in front of the board. I have no.
Yeah, one thing I had asked Doug to put in the memo, and he didn't, I think it would be helpful for everybody to have, for you to draw an elevation of what it's gonna look like with the two houses on either side of you. It was hard to tell.
Obviously, this definitely I did.
No, I know you're a good drawer, so you can do that. And then the other thing is in your letter, you said something about the street spaces you wanted them to be reserved for your.
Yes, so we did that at the train station. I remember we owned the train station.
Yeah, but you can't do that on the village street. You can't reserve anything.
But those are public parking spots.
No, they're all private.
But at the train station.
Partial covers.
Whatever.
Partial.
That is,
3/4 is owned.
That shouldn't have been, but no street parking can be, limited to.
That's fine. I just
even
figured that
people
was
who
just
live down.
I understand that. I figured I'd throw it out there and see where we
And that's what I was further elaborating what I was talking about, the elevations. How does the filling in of that parking area to the south impact the neighbor? Because you have to fill or bring it up or put a cantilever, somehow raise the elevation. And you're not raising it on the neighbor's side, so they're gonna be looking at a wall of some sort.
Yeah, I've looked into it. I mean, it's definitely doable. I'll definitely give you the drawing for it.
I don't know, I mean, if I was a neighbor, I don't know, you say you got the neighbor's permission, but
Yeah.
those cars are literally in the front yard of the neighbor and the wall.
Yeah, which is pretty much on the other side as well.
And the other side is more flat.
The house is in a
And
hole.
there's a fence there, so forth. Anyway,
I'll do the elevations, not a problem. Not a problem.
Lori?
Good luck.
You might want to do it on the south side. You might do a cross section because it comes as you go past the front entrance. It shows the wall.
It appears a little daunting, but
I like daunting things. We did the train station. That was
that's
good.
it.
Parking lot over
And
there.
you do have 7 tenants there in the building?
7 tenants right now, yeah.
Oh, discuss that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mike?
Nothing for me.
Oh, wait, anybody on Zoom?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak and there are no comments in the chat.
Anybody in person? Again, be careful. It's a tough call. You got a lot to do. The end result may not, worth all the effort. Okay,
We'll see.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. 88 Fargo. Is anybody, Sarah?
Good evening, Mr. Chair. My apologies. Can you hear me?
Can hear you, but we don't see anything.
Let me work on that. Give me a second. How's that?
We see you in a pool in the background, which is probably your wallpaper, but we don't
Yes,
see
sir.
you.
That's correct. One of my designs in Larchmont, actually. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm Sean Walters, landscape architect. In virtual attendance with me tonight are the owners, Vasilis Spakopoulos and Monica Dredger. We have a proposed driveway alteration. I'm going
You want
to
to share a screen so we can see what you, there you go.
yes.
That's a nice driveway.
Oh, yeah, right. So we're proposing some driveway alterations to address safety and line of sight issues. The alterations will also improve vehicular ingress and egress and maneuverability, while at the same time facilitating emergency and maintenance access, in part by providing areas for snow management. We did submit some images with our application that just show that there's really literally no space to pile snow when we have severe events like we did this winter. The proposal does require the removal of a 34-inch oak tree and a 26-inch spruce tree. What you're looking at here on this plan, the gray shaded areas reflect proposed driveway, whereas the crisscrossed hatch pattern shows existing driveway. You will note that there is a tree dead center in the middle of the existing driveway that you would hit if you were backing out, unless you were very careful. And it also splits the easement. As you come down from Fargo Lane, you have to go right to either access 92 below my client's property or left to access my client's property. But the tree presents a danger, line of sight issues, and during winter maintenance, when plows go left or right, the snow accumulates and builds up in front of the tree. The roots have mounded up, and it just presents quite a danger and a hazard. So we have proposed a planting plan that includes native plantings intended to mitigate runoff from proposed surfaces. I do understand that there is some, these are the plantings here, by the way. The trees are Amelanchier canadiensis. These trees are small, they're compact, they grow at mature height anywhere from 15 to 25 feet. 25 feet would be under optimal conditions, and that is rare. I would like to add that looking at a GIS map of Westchester County, I just want to show that the location of these proposed trees is 12 feet below the base of the back of the residence at 90 Fargo Lane, where I understand we have some opposition. And to give you a little more insight, this is the back of 90 Fargo Lane as seen from my client's property. You can see that it is completely surrounded by intentionally planted screening that completely already obstructs views of the river. So not only that, so we have the back of this residence, it's built into a hillside, so the first floor is actually raised well above grade. So we're talking about 15 to 18 feet above the spot in question with these proposed trees. And one more thing I'd like to point out on a Google map, we have 90 Fargo up here. Here's my client's property. This is an unobstructed view shed from 90 Fargo. The proposed trees could only obstruct 90 Fargo's view of the existing residence at 92. It's a moot point, and I just want to state for the record that we have very defensible arguments for why what we're proposing will have no adverse impacts on the view shed for the surrounding properties. I do understand that there are some concerns from the owner of 92 Fargo about emergency access. We share those concerns, and I want to state for the record that nothing we are proposing will adversely impact the ability of emergency vehicles and maintenance vehicles to access 92. In fact, nothing we're doing is altering the easement in any way or in any adverse way. The removal of the tree will actually facilitate ingress and egress. It will improve safety. And the added driveway area will provide an area to a snow shelf where snow can be piled and managed in winter seasons like we had this year, or this past season. There was literally no place to stack the snow. My clients had, it was almost impossible to get in and out of their driveway. They've had stuck delivery vehicles. Compounding the issue is the fact that recently a no parking ban was mandated for Fargo Lane on either side of the easement. And that ban extends for a considerable distance, if I understand correctly. So there's no place for friends, family, parties, vehicles to accumulate. It's a very tight situation, and we've got, an easement that's servicing 3 properties that meanders across 2 of the properties. So we asked for a little bit of flexibility in interpreting the regulations as they apply to this unique site. So again, we are not proposing anything that will adversely affect existing ingress and egress or access from maintenance and emergency vehicles. Nothing we're proposing is going to adversely impact any view sheds from the surrounding properties. We have a nice a mitigation planting plan full of native species that will support the local ecology without impacting the views from 90 Fargo or anywhere else. I yield the floor. Thank you.
You want to bring up your site plan, please?
Yes.
Okay, there's two major items that most likely will preclude any approval of this. First of all, we're not going to consider that a driveway. That's going to be considered coverage. If you add in the undocumented shed and pathway, the coverage gets rather large and require a rather large variance. Number two, when you're coming east off of Fargo, you're a flag lot, so you come down your property, and then instead of swinging south into your garage, you need to swing north onto someone else's easement or someone else's property. Didn't mention that, and that area where you would be driving to get to the westerly end of whatever of the non-driveway is somebody else's easement, and I think there was some documentation on some computer document that you may even be on the land of 90 Fargo, may extend beyond their fence, and you may be transgressing some of their land. And I just don't see it as a driveway yet. And to take down the 34-inch oak tree, to do whatever you want to do with that area, which is not a driveway, is very difficult to imagine.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, the shed in question was existing when my client bought the residence, and it's actually shown on an as-built survey for a previous addition that my client did. It's been there since they bought it. They did not put the shed in. They were unaware of this. If that came down to a point of contention, they would gladly remove it, but they did not put that shed up. And the existing walkway, here it is dry laid stepping stones with turf joints. This is not a concrete walkway or, set on concrete or any combination thereof.
It still constitutes coverage, but
Understood.
The main issue is that we don't consider that a driveway. It's all coverage, and you're moving off of your flag lot onto area to drive down to the westerly end of the non-driveway on someone else's easement and perhaps on someone else's land if there's some accuracy to what we looked at for 90 Fargo's land goes beyond their fence. Ed, do you remember we looked at that?
I think what you're trying to say, Caesar, is we need documentation that you can use that easement from 90 Fargo, and you're also exiting on 92 Fargo. So we need to understand if you have an easement right to that as well.
And not just to add to that, 92 Fargo, that easement already cuts through a corner of my client's property.
I understand, but you're showing a turning radius that's going to touch their property.
Understood.
I don't see how you can conveniently go down that easement and make a 180-degree turn to come back up the hill. I mean, that is graded. I don't know why you'd want to drive up that hill that's there. But it's not a driveway as far as we're concerned. So that's all coverage. And if you're going to pursue that, you probably need a ZBA variance for a large variance, which most likely won't happen. This is something that I'll ask everybody else's opinion. Lori?
I think the easement is the first stumbling block. And do you have a picture of the tree in question that you can share?
The 34-inch oak.
Yes. The oak tree is here. The spruce tree, excuse me. Is here, and the oak is in the background, by the way.
How long has the homeowner lived there?
I can't speak to
But
that. I
like-
know
Like 5+
Vasily,
years or something, or no?
I can't speak to that, but I know that Vasilis is here. If you can hear me, Vasilis, could you raise your hand?
I'm just wondering, like, was all of this exacerbated by the amount of snow we had this year?
The amount of snow was a tipping point because they had no place to pile it. It was almost, the snow came up to where it completely blocked. There was just no place to put it, and it blocked their ingress and egress. It was a line of sight issue in addition to the tree. The tree is beautiful. I'm a landscape architect. I don't like the idea of taking trees out, but there's a very, very strong reason. I made a mental note when I pulled in to see the site for the first time to be careful of that tree, and I still almost hit it. It was the back of my car here, the Subaru. Very, very difficult to pull out. So that's part of the reason for the extra driveway space. The plow can come down, my client's property, who basically owns that easement that 92 Fargo is using, right? That other property is using, but also paying to maintain the easement. And the problem is that he can't push snow onto the portion of the easement that's owned by 90 Fargo. He can't push snow out onto Fargo. That's illegal. It has to go into his driveway. And there just isn't enough space when you have these type of weather events, which, by the way, are arguably becoming, more severe, more frequent. We understand that weather patterns oscillate, but
Why can't it go on the other side of the basketball hoop? Why can't the snow be piled there? I mean, picture, I'm saying, on the other part of it. Why couldn't it just...
I can barely hear. I apologize.
It's my fault. Why couldn't the snow be piled on the other side of the basketball hoop over there on the grass?
There's a limit to it, right? I mean, you get to a point, you need a paved surface to work with.
Is this where it sounds like this is a plow has difficulty pushing the snow?
Yeah, winter maintenance has been very difficult. And then
there's a big difference between there's no place for the snow and a plow can't do it. Those are not the same thing. So is it that the plow had difficulty maneuvering and getting the snow somewhere, or that there's no place for snow to go?
So can I speak? Hi, this is I'm the owner. I've been here for a couple of years. We just finished a previous renovation inside the house. So happy to be here back again. Now, the quick answer to the question is that the space is already very tight. So anything, I mean, right now, anything that will make it tighter, snow in this case, makes it impossible. As Sean was mentioning before, coming out of the house, we need to back up. And when there's snow, this is kind of impossible. A lot of times in the winter, when we had either Uber drivers or delivery people or people who didn't have a 4-wheel drive, that made it impossible. I had to kind of go out and push the cars myself. One gentleman fell down and almost broke his head. So it is a safety concern. And the reason that at least we thought that it would be a better solution to do what we're suggesting is that you don't have to back up. Someone can come in the one way and come out the other way. It's really dangerous and scary sometimes to try to kind of turn around and back up in the dark. And that's what I've seen a lot of people having to do. So I don't know if that gives you additional context into what we had to go through last year, but it wasn't pleasant, I have to tell you that, and it was very scary at times.
Everybody had a lot of snow and once in generation
yeah,
snow.
of course.
Excuse me. Are you done?
Yeah,
You're done?
I'm sorry. Yes.
A once in a generation snow is not going to change a lot of things. It's still not a driveway, and the coverage is going to be way over, and just creating more surface area to plow. I think you need to do more work, a lot more work, cover it, add up the coverage, and see what that looks like, and come back. Ed, you want to go over that again? Yeah, that's what I'm
Show us.
asking you.
Yeah, just provide the easements and highlight where you have the authority or the right to drive over 90 Fargo's portion of their property.
And 90.
And then 92, you can show the turning radius on the proposed exiting on the west side, and show us if it shows that you're on 92's property, then show us where you have the right to be on 92's property.
And also, Ed, we saw that the property of 90 Fargo seemed to go out into that easement area.
It's actually not on, we've got it right on the line, so of course it's within a setback, but it doesn't intersect 92. I'm showing that with a dashed line here.
Demonstrate the turning radius for a standard vehicle.
The standard vehicle is going to be closer to 17 feet, but we're not looking for a 360-degree turn, right? We're looking to do a 180, which requires a lot less. So this is 9 feet.
Show us that it can make the turn.
How do you mean?
Without going onto 92's property. Provide evidence that it's not going to go on their property.
Okay.
And you need to count it as coverage, and we'll take a look at the coverage numbers. And it's going to be a hard sell on the coverage.
Mr. Chair, could you a little more clarity on the coverage? We do have an engineered stormwater management plan. We did coverage calcs. We submitted them with the application. We did see some.
You're missing the point. It's not a driveway. It's coverage. That whole area you're proposing as a driveway is not a driveway. It's coverage. Driveways don't count as coverage, but that's not a driveway. So you have to count it as coverage.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Thank you.
Anything else? Anything else?
But you have a chance.
Any Zoom?
Yes, Sarah Barganos is raising her hand.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, how are you? So yeah, we submitted
Could you please identify yourself?
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm Sarah Parganos. I live at 90 Fargo Lane. The easement is on our property. So we're just on tonight to express our concerns about this plan, which we've also expressed to the owner. Specifically, our concerns are we have two concerns. One is killing a tree that's perfectly healthy for what seems to be what we would consider sort of a luxury to have this kind of a driveway. I'm just going to be honest, our driveway, if you've ever driven by it, is probably a 45-degree angle downhill. And when we went to you guys a couple years ago, we weren't allowed to put a K-turn into our driveway. Our driveway is far more dangerous and treacherous than theirs, and we manage. So to think about destroying a 100-year-old tree is honestly, like, I'm going to be honest, it offends me on like a moral level when there's a full driveway. Like we all sort of have to deal with the snow and it sucks. we are, I mean, I have to go down my driveway backwards and it's 45 degrees down into my home. Like if I skid, I crash into my house. So this whole plan to me feels like it wouldn't be in line with the precedent that Irvington has already set. I will also just note that the replacement trees that are proposed, there are two, and I think in our email we outlined them, would block our river view. So we just want to be here tonight to state that this would have an impact on our quality of life and our home value and
Okay, thank you. I don't necessarily disagree with you at all. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the applicant, really, the existing driveway, I mean, you come down your flag lot, you move into your driveway and you move into your garage. I just don't see any hardship. Anybody in the room?
You come up now.
I just
Come up and just.
was wondering.
You have to say your name. You have to say your name and address.
Kim, I live in 92 Fargo Lane.
Hold it a second.
That's all right, you can hold it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just was wondering whether that fence, there's no mention about the fence. So I just like to see whether they are going to replace or just there, how are they gonna handle that fence, the white fence?
Okay. Did you hear what she said? That she was concerned with the fence. Because if this moves forward, the fence has to come down to some degree.
And then also the architect mentioned about the planting a large tree, and so I just was wondering whether that has, I just hopefully the large tree it's not going to be planted just where we are making fun sometimes.
Okay, that's a good point. She made the point about any new plantings should not make it more difficult for her to get into her driveway.
Of course. No line of sight issues or interfering with emergency access, maintenance access, so on and so forth. Of course. And yes, a portion of the fence would come down to facilitate line of sight. You can see here's a portion of existing fence here in the foreground. You can see what kind of condition it's in. I wouldn't chalk that up as any great loss. It would simply be removing a couple of sections to facilitate line of sight. Can't have a 3-4 foot fence.
Speaking of line of sight, this is a view preservation area, and 90 Fargo mentioned some of the plantings might be impeding her view, so you need to address that.
Yes, sir. We did hear, and that a statement is hard to back up because this is the back of 90 Fargo, and the entire area across which that view exists is interrupted by intentionally planted border plantings. And I Zoomed with the owner of 90 Fargo in good faith to try to broker a solution, and they did share with me an image of what they would see from their back porch. And it was taken in the winter, and I could not see the Hudson River. It's so densely planted that there is no view. So, I understand we have other issues that we're wrestling with here, but that particular point, in my opinion, is not defensible. And not to mention part of my earlier presentation, here's the back of 90 Fargo. It just doesn't, the only thing we're blocking is their view of the residents at 92 Fargo, not to mention the fact, in accordance with our GIS map, the plantings that we're proposing are 12 feet lower than the back of 90 Fargo, and the back of 90 Fargo steps up another 8 feet before they get to their first floor. It's a non-event. I mean, I can back that up and defend it. But I know you have other presentations. We don't need to get into the weeds with that.
We don't, but, like Ronnie Reagan said, we believe you, but verify. Trust but verify. So
You're going to have to demonstrate that.
we're going to have to see that demonstrated with pictures. All right, yes, Sarah, you got somebody online now?
Yes, Sarah Parganos would like to respond.
Hi, I'm Sarah's husband. We do have.
I'm sorry, I don't know who that is. Can you
Oh,
give your
sorry,
whole name and address?
Sorry, Evan Parganos. I'm Sarah's husband.
90 Fargo Lane.
Yeah,
Okay,
Fargo. So we're just
you
responding.
gotta train him a little better.
Yes, I
Yeah.
know.
I get right to the point. I skipped the pleasantry. Sorry. We do have a river view. There are crepe myrtles that do go up over the river view because they've overgrown and we're going to trim them. We have control over our own trees to trim them and preserve our river view. And we don't have control if they're on another property. The trees will be shorter now, but they'll grow to 25 feet and they will certainly block the view of the river. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay, thank you very much.
Moving those trees is not going to create a hardship to this design, I don't think, but there's other issues, obviously,
There's
besides.
major issues before this goes forward, yes. But view preservation is one of them. All right, thank you very much. Sarah, anybody else? Thank you.
Nobody's raising their hand to speak.
Is there anybody in the room, in addition to the young lady that already spoke? Do you have any further comment?
No.
Dan?
Not at this point.
Nothing for me.
Ed, how are we going to proceed? They have to meet with you and demonstrate, because this is not going to be, we're not going to do a song and dance before the planning board on what's the easement and what's not.
They gotta have to provide us with the documents for the next submission. Otherwise, we don't have anything to submit, to discuss.
Yeah, and they need to provide a coverage calculation.
Calculation. They should provide a view line study of the trees at maturity.
And the coverage is going to be big, so you're going to need a neighborhood coverage analysis. I have, I'm very optimistic about this proposal. I have to be truthful.
You're very optimistic.
Pessimistic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't like to be pessimistic. In this case, I am.
You can say not optimistic.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, I had a hard time hearing the gentleman speaking just now. You guys will send conditions or I am
You
having a
have
hard
Doug's
time hearing
review.
other speakers.
Yeah, you have Doug's review, and if you have any questions, give Doug or I a call.
Thank you.
And I wanted to make it perfectly clear that we're very pessimistic on this, because I just don't see the hardship. I don't see the coverage being justified in terms of what's going on there. I'm sorry.
Understood.
I don't want you later to go through the expense of what you might do and then say, well, if we knew that first, we wouldn't have paid all that money to do this, that, and the other thing. So beware.
Yep. Sometimes you have to probe a little and explore to figure out, figure out the board's temperature and what have you. And we're getting a good sense now.
I think you got the board's temperature. Okay.
I think the homeowner wants.
Yeah. Would you like to speak, sir?
Yeah, yes, thank you. Appreciate the feedback. I'm sorry that we weren't able to explain the safety concerns in a way that resonated. So obviously, we're going to work with my architect to see where we go from here. But I was surprised to hear from my neighbors talking about calling out morally that about the tree when the point that we're trying to make is definitely around safety. So on a personal level, I just wanted to say that it was just maybe just a tough winter on the top of another tough winter. But the stories that we have were all about the safety of our friends and the safety of everyone who comes here, and that was the origination of this idea, and we have to find a way to resolve it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we're gonna move on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else there? I'm moving on to 32 South Continent Street.
Good evening.
Hi.
Can you guys hear me okay? James Kraft from Studio Park.
Yep, thank you.
I'm representing Brittany and John from 32 South Continent. We're here before you requesting approval for a potential addition. This is a pre-existing property that has, like a lot of properties in town proper, have pre-existing non-conforming conditions that already would meet the needs for a variance even before you do anything to a project. So we will be requesting variance for coverage, FAR, and setbacks. And I can walk you through the existing and the proposed and just give you a brief overall. We received Hans' comments. Most of the items are fairly easily addressable, but I can point out a couple clarifications too that might be needed. So let me share my screen real quick. Can you guys see this coming up now?
It's coming up. Go ahead. You got it.
Got it. So let's bring up these photos real quick. So we already talked about South Continent earlier tonight, so we are familiar with the property. We're further on down South Continent from number 10 right here. Just to zoom into the property, you can see some of the additions and expansions in the further yards next door. We'll get into that later. And here's some existing pictures of the street facade. This was, I don't want to say cookie cutter house, but there's 3 versions of this house basically all in a row from 32, 30, 28 on the west side of Continent. So that's the general property, and I'll show you the existing site plan. So here's the existing site plan. Continent's on the right. There's an existing flagstone patio that's kind of underused that's going to be proposed removed. I'll show you a diagram in a minute. And you can see we have 10-foot and 35, we have 10-foot setbacks on the side and a 35-foot setback in the front. All of the buildings on the street are already over these setbacks. So we will be requesting a variance for that. We're not proposing making that necessarily any worse anywhere. The bulk of our proposed addition is squaring off this corner here with a porch in the back that I subsequently called a deck, but created some confusion in our letter to the board. So hopefully we can clear that up. So I will show you here. Here is our diagram, FAR diagrams, coverage diagrams. So let me just zoom in on this real quick. So as you can see, the gray is the existing building and the existing parts that we're going to keep. The orange is what we're proposing removing, which is some sidewalks and that patio in the rear. And the blue is the proposed expansion. This is the porch in the rear. This is a physical addition on the first floor and partial second floor. Stairs potentially down to the basement and a little mudroom addition in the front. Previously, the coverage was already over before we proposed anything. It was, sorry, just refresh my memory. It was about 400 square feet over, like on day one when the property was purchased. After the proposed reductions and the addition, what we're requesting is essentially 200 square feet over coverage over the existing. And that's all diagrammed here, just to show you that. So we did our neighborhood comparison to show the coverages in the neighborhood. And as you can see, you know, most of the neighborhood is already well above 100% allowable coverage, just because a lot of the things in town are. So our proposed coverage is, you know, moving us up the list a little bit, but not egregious as compared to our neighbors. One request that was made that we did not provide at this time was we did not do an FAR analysis of everybody in the neighborhood. That was requested by Han, and we will do that and provide that for the next one. But I think we're going to find that we're very similar and in keeping with the bulk of the properties in the neighborhood. So I don't foresee any issue with that. We just need to provide it and get your analysis. So I do just want to bring to your attention, essentially, you can see, the front yard line of these 1, 2, 3 properties are exactly this. These were existing properties that have already had additions in the rear. We're proposing coming back to align with basically those properties. And let me just show you the proposed site plan now as opposed to the previous. So this is the newly proposed roof plan over top of the old. This is the patio that's gone. You can see the red is the existing setbacks. A bulk of the home is already over the said setbacks. We're not encroaching into the rear any worse than we were previously. This is our proposed landscape plan, but at this time, we're actually not proposing changing anything landscape-wise. No trees, no other issues. We don't want to harm anything. We did get some comments from Susan to add some additional protection to the red maple. It's a village property, not a problem, and some other clarifications if we do change anything down the line. So that's also easily addressable. I'll just walk you quickly through the plans. So the demo plans, essentially, I'll go back to this. This is kind of easiest to explain. In the 90s, there was a sun porch / dining room addition put off the rear of the property. That's this piece here. And just to go, so we're proposing essentially replacing the roof in that area and building on top of that. And then, as we said, like excavating this unused corner. You can see the proposed demolition here. A lot of the work is mostly in the rear. And then we're proposing, again, new living and kitchen space. Right now it's very segmented, very, very tight. 1 new bedroom on the 2nd floor, some balconies to get river views. This is what we were calling a deck, but should probably be called a porch because it is covered. At one point it wasn't covered, but we didn't change the label. And then this is the proposed elevation from the street. One other comment that was made that this is in the view preservation corridor. There is a small roof addition in this area here. We have not changed the width of the building. You can see from this portion to this portion. It doesn't really impact the views of anybody. The width of the building hasn't really changed, so we don't think we're negatively impacting anything, but we can add additional information if needed to expand upon that. But yeah, so that's the bulk of the proposed. What we're trying to do is get to the ZBA to see if the ZBA will allow these variances as well, and then come back to you, post their comments. But that's the long and short of it.
Yeah, that was very good. Yes, we'd like to see the view preservation and the comparison for FAR before you go to the ZBA. So that there's a variance for the compact for the FAR, that we would like to see the neighborhood comparison before it goes for the first time to the ZBA. So
sure.
My question is, having been out there, it looks rather slim on either side of the house. Construction access, is that going to be a problem getting back there with all the work?
It is tight, but we're proposing essentially there's a 7-foot path on the north side of the building that we're going to use. It's more than likely going to be pretty beat up. Any sort of digging that's going to happen in the rear is either going to be done by mini bobcat or even hand digging. So it might be, frankly, expensive. So that's all TBD, but we're proposing basically using the existing driveway for access. You can't really get anything on the south side. So basically we're going to come through here in the back and then stage probably on this patio and then destroy the patio on the way back, theoretically. And that is in our drawings from Hudson. I'm sorry, I didn't present Hudson stuff. But you can see here. So to mitigate stormwater, we'll be connecting all the leaders and everything to a single large Cultec in the rear. We'll be stockpiling any dirt and other stuff in that patio on the rear as well. Sorry, the site plan is turned, so north is on the right now. Yeah, and then the site access will be, again, around this area. So
yeah, she had the arborist had some concern with compaction of root zones. Now that soil storage area, is that going to be any compaction of any root zones over there?
Well, it's already, we're proposing putting it on an existing patio,
Oh,
concrete.
patio, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll put it on the patio, then remove it. But what we'll propose, what Susan had requested is that we protect the work area with 6 inches of mulch and filter fabric. So basically, we'll take the, we'll note this in our next iteration. We'll basically do mulch and protection all the way down the right-hand side of this property. I mean, the bulk of the lot has root issues no matter what. So anywhere we're doing work, we're just going to put down mulch for protection. So
Being careful of your neighbor's property, of course.
Yep.
Okay, any comment, Lori?
No comment.
I have none.
Mike?
Yeah, one question. Can you bring up the coverage comparison, and point out the neighbors that you earlier compared to on the diagram / overhead photo? Where are they on that?
34 to the south of us is above us. 28 is right next to us. And just, I will also say, as we do these every time, ours is obviously more accurate than what we can steal from the neighbors because we don't have all their site plans.
Mostly checking that they weren't at the very, very bottom and you're comparing them.
Correct.
No,
Yeah, but
that was
30
my main concern.
Yeah.
That's good. The other question, so there's no patio left on the property.
Not proposed.
The outdoor space is going to be the decking.
That's correct. That's what we proposed. So right now sorry, you can't really see it because of the tree. It's actually the site slopes a lot. So the present patio is like at the bottom of a fence. So you can't see anything. So it's particularly underused. Like right now, it's got the kids' Fisher Price houses and stuff on it. But for the short term, we're basically just going to exchange that for the deck or porch, and no other patios proposed at this time.
I would just urge the owners to make sure that they consider the different usability of patio versus deck, and that they're okay with that, and they don't want to come back later and realize, oh,
understood. Yeah,
looking at their neighbors and see how they like it. Probably.
Yeah. So I mean, you can see from each one of the neighbors next door has like double tiered balconies and patios. Everyone's trying to lift ourselves up so that they can get over and look over Bridge Street, because everything slopes down pretty decently. So the further they can move up the hill, the better. And we're also trying to be cognizant of the fact that we are, we're over coverage on day one. So we don't want to,
that's
we don't want to pave everything. Yeah.
Okay, so come back with the comparison for FAR and view preservation. And you went over the construction access, so, and then we'll after that, you can go to the ZBA, but we'd like to see the FAR comparison first.
Sure, not a problem.
Thank you, that was a good job on the presentation for you.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Anything else, Sarah?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak, and there are no comments in the chat.
Anybody in the room, person? Okay, you have your job. Go back and pick up the information we requested. We'll see you next time.
Sounds good. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Last but not least, 76 North Broadway. Ms. Barmer, known as Maxon. Now, time to hear what they have to say. You don't have papers. Before you make any presentation, there's two things that occurred. You missed you weren't here the last meeting. You didn't miss it. You didn't choose to show. And we've had some discussions, and one of those discussions resulted in what we propose a condition of the eventual permit would be the hawk light at Strawberry Lane. And I think you know that. And we thank you for conducting the survey at Meadowbrook intersection. And that looked like there was no traffic impact from your report. Do you have any presentation plan for this right now?
Just wanted to make some brief comments. Kathy Zelantis from Sloberg Zelantis with me tonight is Peter Gator from Peter Gator Associates, and Rocco Larma stepped out for a second, but he's also, and I have Peter Gregory from DTS Provident. It was pointed out to us there was an issue with the floor plans, been corrected. There was a printing error, so properly referenced all the fair and affordable and moderate income units, but the graphics didn't show properly. That's been corrected. You'll see on the new revised floor plan, there's 2 on each story, on the 3 stories, there's 2 fair and affordables and 2 moderate income units, adding up to a total of 6 each, total of 12. We made revisions to the roof deck. The HVAC units were taken in from the edge of the building and they're in the middle of the roof, which we think is a better plan. Go through that. We updated the lighting plan, all dark sky compliant. We produced the requested views with the building superimposed for the board. We updated the roof rules to incorporate what was discussed at the last meeting, which I'm sure will then be incorporated in any potential conditions. With the ending at 9 week, no use after 9 on weekdays, 10 on weekends, max of 30 people, and no amplified sound or music. But just turn it over to Peter Gregory. I'm sorry, Peter Gato.
And one question regarding possible error. There was a letter regarding the space provided for trash. And you looked at that. I don't know if that was, if you've seen that letter.
Yes, we've seen it, and Peter Gato.
Yeah, it's not a possible error. So we looked at it, and there's plenty of room. The rooms are split up accordingly to size appropriately for trash and receptacles and containing the trash or receptacles in proper spaces. There's many compactors available. We're also, each floor has a room itself in each floor, which is going to have some storage up there, bringing the recycles down appropriately in conjunction with the porter and super to take care of that. So, and if need be, there's some room on either side of both rooms if we need to, which is currently striped area. Should we need, but we're okay.
Okay. All right. Were you going to make a presentation?
If you'd like, I was going to run through the updated plans. I could update anything you want. Is there something in particular I'd like to see?
Briefly, yeah. Okay. Sure. I thought being Barmer was out of the room, we could have put it all on him.
Recording in progress.
I hope you went to the police. Go ahead.
Raising my hand.
Sarah, he doesn't, he's here in person, so.
Yes, but he's logging into his share screen.
Oh, okay.
So I have, let's see. So, as Kathy mentioned, apologies, but there was a printing error for the units. But we've always had the same number of units in there, and then just the last printing error conversion to PDF. To be frank, with the printer, it didn't come up. But it's always been there, and it's here again, and I can share that if you would like. So the plans are kind of similar to what you've seen last time in terms of updates. Again, we just spoke about the trash and recycling rooms. We updated some, these are some code items we updated in terms of egress, working with Ed and, oh, sure.
You're off altogether now.
Okay. So let's see. Just some updates with same floor layout as last time. Again, the trash and recycling rooms we just spoke about. As you can see, room inside there, it's all going to be calculated and contained properly. It is. We've been working with respecting the Han memos and building code upgrades since there was a new code in place in 25. So in December, so we're updating the plan as we go along. Anything that may jump out at us, we're catching these drawings represent. And this is reflective of the route plan. Also, site plan did not change. There's some landscape updates, and Paul is actually online in case there's any landscape questions. This is what I think we presented last time, the opening of Strawberry Lane, and then the gathering area in the corner of Strawberry and Broadway. Here's the garage, underground garage layout.
Yeah, excuse me.
Yeah.
Going back to that picture, is that what's
this one?
The upper right? Is that the entrance?
That's a representative. This is the quay that's down the road, just north of here. So
Yes, I know the quay.
okay, so that's the idea we'd like to do in this project here. So I show the curved walls to the left, which open into the property, similar to the quay. So it'll be a low retaining wall, and this to capture and have the spirit of the actual Broadway wall that's there now. The stones that are being removed are going to be reused and reset in this pattern on both sides, and landscaping appropriately in the foreground of those.
Yeah, you don't want the height of that landscaping to destroy the sight lines.
No, it's very low. We're very conscious of landscaping and sight lines.
It's nice to see what the quay is going to look like, but at some point we should see what you're actually going to propose.
Sure. Again, this is a similar idea, so certainly detail our drawings as well. Interior underground garage. Again, this is just showing paths and the number of spaces. We need to do some structure in there. Again, there's room around the staircases, and the trash recycling rooms should be needed, but at this point, I don't think we do. These are the updated floor plans you saw, but I have the updated ones that show that proper hatching to show all the allocated affordable and moderate units, which we've had previously from past 6, 7, 8 submissions. And the roof plan is new. So what we did was we centrally located the HVAC equipment, screened them appropriately, and then pulled them into the center of the roof. So they're off the edge, and they're center mounted, and they provide both a buffer for sound and visual boundaries and things as well. So we sort of left the outside sparse in terms of activity, and then just showed some chairs and such facing the inner section of the building. Elevations were updated as well. We did go to the ARB last month. There was no comments from them. This is the other.
Excuse me, when you say no comment, does that mean they had no comment or they weren't willing to make a comment?
They had no comment.
Well, there's a difference.
I know there's a difference. Okay. So they said, we have no comments. And they said, thank you for your time. And I think they said something to the effect of, there's going to be somebody, a consultant, and that person will hear when we present the ARB next time, they'll be on board. Okay. So they had nothing to say. Literally. Again, this is other two views of the building. Materials.
Can you show the view from Strawberry at the back?
Yeah. So this is the view from Strawberry in the lower level. Okay. That's just the inner level. And then top. Okay. That's the northeast. Materials. And then this is the view sort of day 1 and then day 18 or year 18. Same day. Real fast. Day 1, year 18. And then
The view from the front, I mean, the way it's L-shaped, wouldn't the north side look differently than the south side, because the south side is closer to Broadway? Is that a accurate rendering?
Everything's accurate. I'm not sure what you're asking.
Well, the north end wing of the L is closer to Broadway. One would
Yes.
think as you go further back, it would be part that's parallel to Broadway and to the north, that's further back from Broadway, might look smaller. Might, I don't know.
It's not smaller. It's probably what it actually is.
I know it's not smaller. The appearance might be that different than the building that's closer to Broadway.
Yeah, this is represented sort of a straight on view. So actually, what it is that if anything, the colors and it's a little more.
I think at one point you had a photograph from Broadway, and then you had the buildings, what they would actually look like in the photograph. I sort of remember that from somewhere.
Quite possibly.
And if not, we'd like to see that. An actual photograph with how the buildings are sketched in the photograph. I think we saw that once before.
Yeah, this is strawberry up top, so that's top right. See. So you're asking for a Photoshop image of the building
from Broadway.
From Broadway. So the next view is I think you're getting at. This is view. I took these photos, as you can see the numbers down below, and then we sort of looked at the houses in pink there where I took the photos. So the red circles are labeled correspondingly with the photos up top. And then we dropped the building inside these exact photos to show where it might be hidden, where it would be screened, and what it would look like from the same views. So again, here it is, the existing. Here it is with the building.
Yeah, Suzanne made a comment, at least to us, that the actual planting plan is the visual doesn't necessarily represent the actual plan. You need to straighten that out with her.
We did, and Paul, can, if he's here, can explain that a little bit better than I can, but everything matches exactly. I had a conversation with Susan about this, and she's on board. 100% agreement. So you can speak to her, you can speak to him.
Yeah, because
Sure.
she likes to describe it as a punctuated screening as opposed to a solid wall of screening.
Right.
Yeah, and Paul DeVito with Stonefield Engineering. We were working closely with Susan on the proposed plantings in this area. So one of the things we looked to do was provide a double and in some areas a triple row of evergreen trees. The species we worked closely together to select to make sure they were going to be tall, fast-growing trees that are going to be dense of foliage to make sure that we're going to have that year-round screen. The images, the proposed landscaping within these images, it is accurate to the landscape plan. We worked pretty diligently to make sure it was placed in there. So the proposed condition is accurate to the landscape plan.
Okay, it was her comment on
Sure.
Friday.
Yeah, and I actually gave her a call today just to kind of go over that and give her that reassurance that we were accurately representing.
Okay. Go ahead.
Next is just a updated lighting plan with some updates with the landscaping plan in concert with that. Everything is dark sky compliant. And then the last, this is just showing the lights that are there. So this is the architecture portion. I do have civil drawings here if you'd like to go through those. And I have Paul's landscape drawings if you'd like to go through those.
All right, that's in that quick one of the quick views you gave of the landscaping plan. I'm sure you're aware that the stormwater system And the trees have to be separated?
They are.
Okay.
100%. Yes, they are. 100%. So I can show. Okay, so I can pull up the landscape plan. So Paul, you can talk about that.
Okay, let me pull this up.
Kathy, who's that?
Let's see, sure. Sorry, I heard you.
That's our landscape architect.
Would you like me to bring up the plans, Peter?
I have it right now. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. So high level items from the landscape plan mostly remain the same. The intent and form from the previous plans, just working with the professionals. The main efforts were to provide that enhanced screening along Strawberry Lane. Um, just as noted before, we do have that double staggered row of evergreen trees to maximize the screening. Also, within this area, we had specific discussions to increase the size of select trees within this area. And we did that where we thought we can get the best screening for the view sheds to the neighbors. Also along North Broadway, the tree spacing has been updated to the requested 30 feet on center, and the trees have also been upsized to 4-inch caliper. This provides a cohesive design along the frontage. The remainder of that frontage with the shrubs, the plantings, the perennials, they all remain generally the same. And the plantings are pulled back to remain outside of the site triangle to make sure we're not impeding within that area. So those were the main changes that we worked on from the last iteration.
Okay, thank you. Just be sure that you're coordinating closely with Susan Nolan.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Anything on civil, Peter, you want to share? Okay. So, yeah, that's what I think. That's what we have right now. Any questions?
Well, I'm going to ask to see if we have, the board has any questions. Then we're going to go into a review of the view of analysis of the seeker concern. So far,
Nothing specific.
I just have a question on the HVAC on the roofs. Are they hidden or are they in the middle of the roof?
Yes, they are. Sorry, second landscape.
So we worked with Peter's office. He's gonna be bringing this up, but one of the things we looked to do was provide upright evergreen shrubs within raised planters to screen the mechanical equipment in the internal portion of the roof deck, as well as the perimeter of the site to help screen any on-site movement. Yeah, following the cursor.
Okay, thanks very much.
The green around the white squares there, that's the screening.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Nothing for me.
all right. Thank you. We're going to ask AKRF Ashley Lang, how you pronounce it? Ashley Lang. To go, we're going to review what we've analyzed so far on the seeker concerns. I think, Sarah, you put some back. Okay. Ashley, you're on.
All right, thank you. So we prepared a memorandum for the board. I believe you've all received a copy. It basically summarizes our review over the past almost 2 years on this project. We've issued approximately 17 memoranda during that time, primarily focusing on traffic, but also looking at the broader range of seeker issues, including zoning, fiscal, socioeconomic, and noise. For this last submission, we reviewed everything. There was an updated EAF narrative that was included in the revised submission. And what we've provided to the board is walking through all of the major potential impact areas under seeker and review the materials submitted, the changes that have happened to the project, and then gave an overview of where we think this is in terms of a seeker consideration and whether something is seeker related or could be get to closer to final site plan approval. So first off, under the land impacts, they will be the project does involve some excavation, removal of materials, but everything that they're doing is something that will be addressed during a construction management plan. They will be mitigating erosion and sediment control impacts through their stormwater pollution prevention plan. And we don't see any issues on that front from a seeker perspective. The site is not within a designated floodway or floodplain, so that is something that doesn't need further review. They have provided detailed visual impact assessments, which the applicant team just went through. So from that perspective, we do not SHPO did not find that the Woodcliff Manor house is eligible for listing on the state or national register of historic places. So from that perspective, it's not considered a historic impact. The site is not it's across from the Hudson River critical environmental area, but it's not really affecting it due to its location.
Actually, could you go back on the historical thing? It is
Right.
contiguous to 3 sites on the state register.
Yeah, so it is contiguous to it, but the changes, what's being proposed on the project site is there's enough distance and separation that it's not going to have a visual effect on the enjoyment of those resources. So they provided enough buffer that it should not affect those resources.
Sorry.
Right.
Okay. I'll let Elaine go into traffic a little bit more later. I'll just get through the rest of these. But that obviously went through the most extensive review, and there are mitigation measures in place to avoid significant adverse traffic impacts. Noise, odor, and light. There was a detailed noise assessment, which we reviewed. The applicant made some changes in response to that noise assessment. They've included restrictions on the use of their outdoor patio, the rooftop patio, which would address the noise concerns. The lighting analysis, they are committing to a dark sky compliance. We did note in our memorandum that we just want to make sure that the lighting color temperature is under 3000 Kelvin or 3000 Kelvin or less. That's not something we noticed on the plans, but that's certainly something that can be specified as in the next submission, and I don't see that being a seeker issue.
Actually, can I just add one thing you might want to add to the memo on the noise thing is that the plan was just changed so that the HVAC units are all in the middle of the roof and not being screened. The screening they're doing on the roof, you might want to mention that in there.
Yes, we can add that, and that certainly will help with the noise considerations. In terms of consistency with community character, it is consistent with the allowable uses for the property as well as the Village of Irvington Comprehensive Plan. And it's also consistent with the Westchester 2025 policies, and there was a positive review by Westchester County Planning Board in their 239M referral. In terms of community services impacts, the project would add about 96 new residents, including 12 school-aged children. This is a very minimal increase in population, and that number of school children can be absorbed by the school district. We did take a look at the historical enrollment for the Village of Irvington's or the Irvington Union Free School District. And over the last 10 years, peak enrollment was about 1,776. Current or the enrollment for the last year reported to New York State Ed So the 2024-25 school year was 1,709 students. So, almost 70 students less. So there's certainly room within the district to accommodate 12 students. And then any costs associated with those new students would be more than offset by the tax revenues that would be generated by this project. Similarly, the tax revenues would offset any marginal increases to police, fire, medical services in terms of staffing. And we don't expect there to be any significant issues with response times. I do know that there's been some correspondence with the fire department on some access, and that's something that can continue during the site plan review process to make sure that they're comfortable with how things are laid out. And similarly, the Department of Public Works will be involved with the review of the stormwater, making sure that the stormwater issues are addressed through the village engineer. And we don't see any issues from a seeker perspective on those items either. Now, Elaine can speak to any traffic issues.
Thanks, Ashley. Good evening, everyone. With respect to traffic, the applicant conducted a full traffic impact study. They took a look at everything that's required under seeker as your requisite hard look. And so what we found was they conducted the analysis and then additional items that you, the board, staff had requested. And so therefore, we did cover that, what is typically reviewed under SECRA. And although what has been brought up in the past was we do have the quantitative traffic impact standards and also the qualitative impact standards. The village board has said that the quantitative, the numerical traffic impact standards override the quantitative. However, I did want to mention that a lot of the items that they reviewed that go beyond your requisite SECRA hard look also cover what is under the qualitative traffic standards. So going through these in detail, with respect to the traffic impact study, they conducted trip generation, detailed synchro analysis. We went through the directional split in great detail for several months. And so from that, we came out with a thorough traffic study. They looked at the Broadway and Station Road intersection, Broadway and Harriman Road, Broadway and Main Street, Broadway and Sunnyside, Broadway, Matheson Park, Heritage Hill, Broadway and Riverview Road, Broadway and Fargo Lane, Circle Drive, Broadway and Strawberry Lane, Broadway and their site driveway, and Broadway and Meadowbrook Road. So with all these analyses, in their build condition, there were traffic impacts. However, they also analyzed and proposed various mitigation measures. And so these included adjustments to traffic signal timing, lengthening some of the storage pockets, some of your storage lanes on the village roads. And so based on all of these changes, the traffic impacts have been fully mitigated to meet your quantitative, your numerical traffic standards. I do need to note that some of the traffic mitigation measures require New York State DOT approval, and as we have discussed in detail in the past, these mitigation measures would be required as part of a project. So if New York State DOT decides to reject any of these mitigation measures, they would need to come back to you and propose new mitigation measures in order to meet the quantitative traffic standards again. So beyond the traffic analysis, they also looked at crash. So that is taking a look at the crash history along the entire study corridor at all of these study locations. The applicant found no high crash locations except for the intersection of Broadway and Main Street. At this intersection, the crash that I was concerned with was a bicycle crash that involved a westbound left turning vehicle. At the intersection, and especially with turning vehicles, the proposed project is adding minimal vehicle trips. We also looked at parking. So parking, they are providing 111 parking spaces. This is sufficient to meet the parking demand of the site. This is sufficient to meet the code. And the shared parking study that the applicant prepared, this was submitted in November 2025. This looked at shared parking that would be shared between the daycare and also the residential uses. Based on that study, they found that there are sufficient parking spaces to meet that the 111 parking spaces are sufficient to meet the overall shared parking demand between the two land uses. The applicant also reviewed queuing on site. So they provided a queue assessment, and that was for the daycare for vehicles that would be entering the site and potentially queuing on their site driveway. Based on the queuing, they found that the queues would not back up to or block Broadway. They also noted that they would have staff present during pickup and drop off so that they can help direct traffic, they can help facilitate these movements. They also looked at gaps on Broadway. This was primarily based on AKRF's traffic study done 2 to 3 years ago. Based on the study, there are 1 to 2 acceptable gaps per minute on Broadway at the intersections in question in the vicinity of the site driveway. So this would be sufficient to serve the demand of the project. Site access, and I'm getting through this list, we're almost there. With site access, they are looking at, we're obviously looking to make sure that their driveway is safe. So as you may remember, they prepared site distance triangles on the site plan. They made sure that the site triangles, which are you're viewed looking left and looking right when you're exiting the driveway, that these provide full visibility for drivers. And so I had no issues with the site distance triangles. They are proposed to be clear and free of any obstructions. Pedestrian circulation. So as I believe this was mentioned previously during this meeting, the applicant is proposing a hawk signal at the Strawberry Lane and Broadway intersection. So this is critical to provide pedestrian access to and from the site. This would allow, for instance, parents to walk to and from the school, which would thereby reduce their potential vehicle numbers. This would allow residents living at the site to walk to and from the train station, and also people living on Strawberry Lane or in the vicinity on the east side of Broadway. This would provide them a safe crossing opportunity. And I believe Caesar had mentioned earlier that this would be a condition of approval. So that is, in my professional opinion, an appropriate measure to take. Next, we looked at, the applicant had looked at how would this project operate with the Route 9 Complete Streets project that DOT is undertaking. So the applicant did conduct a sensitivity analysis, and so they went through the process of revising their analysis to show the potential geometric changes along Broadway and how their project would affect the roadway with those changes. The findings indicated that they would not have any impacts. However, the only poorly operating approach was their own driveway, and that is for people who are exiting their site. This is primarily contained on site. It's an internal site consideration, and so therefore Broadway would not be affected. Looking at mitigation measures and traffic improvements, just talking about this a little bit in detail. So the proposed improvements include, first, the installation of the hawk signal, which is, again, crossing Broadway at Strawberry Lane. This requires DOT approval. The applicant would also be preparing post-implementation studies. This is something that we as a group have discussed in detail, that we've really hammered out the methodology, the requirements. That's something that we can still visit, but this would be also included as part of their improvements or mitigation measures. The intersection of Main Street and Broadway, as I mentioned before, they would be extending a turn lane, and that is the westbound left turn lane. As you're coming off Main Street, turning left onto Broadway, they're extending that left turn lane by approximately 10 feet, making the appropriate striping changes. They're also modifying the traffic signal timings, and this again would require DOT approval. At the intersection of Sunnyside Lane and Broadway, they are also making modifications to signal timing. Again, DOT approval needed. Matheson Park, Heritage Hill and Broadway, signal timing changes, which also require DOT approval. Lastly, and this was from start to finish, the students of this project have changed. The number of students have been reduced to 155. In addition to that, the applicant has committed to staggering pickups and drop-offs such that you would have 62 students during the peak hour and 92 students during the off-peak hour. So based on this, the applicant has fully mitigated their impacts that they have identified as part of the traffic impact study. They walked through everything that was needed as part of the requisite hard look as part of SECRA. They have met your qualitative traffic impact standards, and they have looked at multiple and almost everything that's included as part of the qualitative traffic impact standards. And I believe Marianne or Caesar had mentioned this earlier, but they also, upon request of the planning board in their latest submission, looked at the intersection of Broadway and Meadowbrook Road. They actually went out there and did counts based on their revised analysis. The proposed project has no impacts on this intersection. So overall, no concerns there. Last item, I promise here. Roadway safety. So diving a bit into roadway safety in detail. So we already talked about the crash analysis where they found only one high crash location, and at this location they would be adding minimal turning vehicles. The other concern is they are adding vehicles that are turning onto and off of Broadway at the driveway. And so this could potentially create a safety issue. However, the results of their traffic analysis showed that their driveway would operate safely and the turning movements would also operate safely, both into and out of the driveway as well as the main line of Broadway. Beyond that, providing sufficient sight distance and providing clear sight triangles at the driveway plays a big deal into this. And so providing all of that really means that the driveway, that vehicles would be able to safely maneuver to and from the site on Broadway. So this item is something that we talked about very briefly. We discussed adding a southbound left turn lane on Broadway to enter the site. I had mentioned how this is not advisable from a traffic and safety perspective, and I believe at this point the planning board understands this, but we don't support adding a southbound left turn lane on Broadway because of safety reasons, because you're reducing the capacity on Broadway, and because this is not something that's feasible with New York State DOT. That is mostly it for traffic. I've taken up a lot of time, but I'll pass it back to Ashley.
Caesar, could I just want to actually clarify one thing. Yeah, not Ashley. Elaine, several times through this, you said their study showed this, their study showed that, their study. Did you review those studies and determine that they were accurate?
Yes, I took the time to review every single number in their study. I reviewed every submission in detail, including their analysis files, and I confirmed that their analyses and their findings are accurate.
Yeah, I have a question. You mentioned the school is now 155, I think you said?
Yes.
Is that a permanent number or depending on post?
Well, that was what the studies were based on, 155. What might have changed, what they're talking about maybe changing would be the staggering based on.
There's the right, depending on what the post-implementation study determines, to go up to a total of 176.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That's the way I thought it was. So the 155 is not the cap.
Well, it's the count. That's the count that we start with.
Right, okay.
You would have to approve it.
Right,
The
we
board
would
of
have to come
trustees
back.
would have to
We would
approve
have
it
to do the
going higher.
post-implementation study, and then we could potentially reduce the staggering or and or go up to 176 feet.
But only with board's approval.
Yes, right, okay, thank you.
No, I just want to make a comment on the, I know, Elaine, we talked about not advising there to be a left turn lane, but we did speak about some signage on Broadway about cars turning left there, right, as a warning for other drivers. I feel like we did a couple meetings ago. A sign
Sorry.
on Broadway that maybe vehicles will. I believe you mentioned there's a way to have some type of road sign so that other vehicles are aware that there might be more traffic turning left.
Yeah, sorry, I believe your microphone cut out a little bit, but I think I got the gist of it. So, yes, we did discuss adding signage on Broadway. This is something that the applicant would need to get approved by DOT, but you can add intersection signs, which would be your yellow diamond sign with a T intersection. And those could be added in the vicinity of the intersection. They would also need to add, for the hawk signal, advanced pedestrian crossing signage. So that should be considered as part of the site plan, and I assume that's something that the applicant can add for as part of site plan approval.
Thank you.
Okay, Kathy, you got that? Ashley, you have more? Sorry, Ashley, do you have more?
No, just to recap. So at this point, we've evaluated everything from a seeker perspective and believe that the board has sufficient information to consider issuing a seeker determination. We're recommending a negative declaration at this point, but we just wanted to make sure that the board didn't have any outstanding questions that you wanted to see addressed. If there was anything that you felt was missed, now would be the time to review any of those with the applicant so that they can provide any additional information.
Laurie? Any additional thoughts?
Not in terms of this document.
Dan?
Not at this time, no.
Mike?
Nothing for me.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But, okay, you finished with the presentation and
Yes.
Ashley, you're finished with
Yes.
your, thank you very much. That was very thorough, to say the least.
I have a quick question about the garage. I'm sure it's in there, but I just am not recalling. Do you have bike parking in the garage?
Yes, we do have a bike room parking in the garage, yes.
For how many bikes?
I don't remember, it was over 10, between 10 and 20, I believe.
Now that's bicycles too.
Oh, sorry,
as
bicycles.
opposed to
Bicycles.
Not
motorbikes.
e-bikes. No, they're not motorcycle, not e-bikes, yeah, bicycles.
Okay. Just two things before we move on. The stone entry, we'd like to see what that look like. And I'm convinced somewhere in the last almost 2 years, there's photographs from Broadway up the hill. And if you were to put the buildings in that photograph, I think that's more accurate, more realistic than what a rendering might be.
Yeah, I made a note, Chairman, and I will certainly do that for you. Absolutely.
Okay,
Both accounts.
thank you. Sarah, any Zoom?
There are a lot of comments in the chat. I will read them one by one. The first several are from John McCulloch. First comment is, earlier in the meeting, the board member stated trust but verify. Can the applicant verify how the two small garage rooms can handle the 300 people for 76 North Broadway?
Say that again?
Garbage.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
the
the garbage,
garbage.
okay.
It's a garage.
I think they meant garbage.
I think it meant garbage.
Okay.
I think they covered that already. Okay, go ahead.
Well, maybe, is there an industry standard that can help us understand how, because this is that comment that keeps coming up, there's not enough room. How did you base the shape and the size and the compactors and all of that?
Believe it or not, there's a lot more to it than just putting a square in. So there's several factors involved in terms of people, there's ratios. of residents, schools separately, and then there's general parameters based on if it's a compacted room versus a non-compacted room. If there's a live person to take care of it, there's not a live person to take care of it. There's a room upstairs, downstairs. And then there's rules of thumb in terms of actual storing of space and what the amount of recycling would be. Room to manipulate inside this room with a compactor and such. All is taken into consideration. So there's an average. There's it goes. There's small rooms, right, and then there's very large rooms. And the theory is the larger the rooms, the less frequent you can take it out. So we struck a balance with the owner and with the space, and it's appropriately sized, and we separate them on purpose to have more control and more room. And again, the rooms upstairs to get the right size with the compactor. So a lot goes into it.
Okay. And is there any thought around composting?
It's a great question. I'm not sure. Not yet. But,
Okay, it might be something to consider incorporating somewhere into, you know.
Be aware the village has a composting program. You may want to, behind the Main Street School, there are compost bins that are available to the public. So I'm not sure which department handles that. Ed, do you know?
Yeah, that program's actually going to expand next year.
Who?
Our sanitation.
DPW.
Who?
Todd
Smith.
Todd
Smith.
So if it's going to move to pick up that, maybe there is an opportunity to incorporate composting.
Okay.
The development's going to have private carting.
Right. Oh, that's right. You're not. Right,
I mean,
right.
the,
Yeah.
the individual residents, I think, would have the opportunity, right, to get the
Yeah, they can-
compost and
yes.
bring their compost.
Yes, people do that now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we want to put this to bed, what would be helpful, and maybe it's too complicated, you tell me, just seeing some numbers to simplify, like this many residents create this much cubic footage of garbage. We have these machines can handle that much. I think the question is, can the machines that you can fit in those spaces handle the volume of garbage being created by plan to put in? I think that was what the question was asking. Is that, yeah. And so if you can put, you don't have to answer that right now, but some basic summary of like, here's the numbers, here's how we backed into what we have. I think that's what everyone's looking for.
Okay. We got a lot of them. I remember the first meeting I mentioned trash, but yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, the next comment from John McCulloch is for 76 North Broadway, Barma. Landscape canopy above parking garage entrance continues to show no guardrail to prevent fall hazard for students and residents on 220 ground floor. How do you plan on keeping people falling over 10 feet to 206 foot elevation? Okay. Next comment. Why approximately 20,000 square foot roof deck for only 30 people? Can the roof deck be moved to the top of the second floor roof? Approximately 2,200 square feet. 2,200 square feet is more than enough room for 30 people, and moving the rooftop from the third floor section to the top of the second section of the building would provide a greater sound buffer for the existing residents. This was a question for Ed or Doug. For 76 North Broadway, regarding how do 18 rooftop HVAC units supply 53 apartments and 165 student school? Next comment, 76 North Broadway, question for Ashley. Land disturbance is over 2.5 acres, will last more than 24 months, and removal of 70,000 tons of soil, 70 times the threshold for type 1 construction. Equipment not specifically stated so that the noise impact of the proposed 30-month construction window. 76 North Broadway, question for Ashley. What is the make and model with tonnage used to calculate noise impact of the 18 rooftop units? And those were the comments from
And a lot of those sound like
John McCulloch.
Building department construction approvals, the fences.
we'll look into them.
The height of the fences and so.
Yeah, there's fences. They're not there yet.
Yeah, okay.
We're getting close.
Is there anybody else?
Okay, and then we did receive a comment from Arthur Shaban. And his comment was ARB review was mischaracterized. Their lack of comments in no way suggested they had no comments, rather that their comments would be made at a later date.
That was the point I was making.
Understood.
We understand that. The difference between no comment and not making the comment. Good.
And we now have somebody with their hand raised that wants to speak, Marion Gruber.
Hi, actually, it's her husband, Walter Montgomery. Can you hear me?
Yes, Walter.
Hi, thank you. I'm speaking or asking a question or questions in my capacity as the head of the local traffic calming committee that works with the police department and the village administrator on various traffic and pedestrian safety issues and mitigation of those issues. And it's not clear to me. And by the way, I'm not speaking for or against the development at all, but it's not clear to me or our group, and the police have expressed concern to us about, safety issues around the project. What happens if the mitigation procedures, actions don't produce the outcomes that are hoped for? Sometimes the best laid plans, the best data don't lead to predicted outcomes. What will happen if the mitigation efforts don't work? If we have severe problems or simply problems with traffic congestion, safety, or what? Is there going to be some sort of standard that's going to be revisited, whether it's qualitative or quantitative or both? To determine the extent of the problem? And is there any provision for further actions that could be enforced to meet or to improve the situation if indeed it proves to not to be what we hope it to be? What happens if things don't work out the way we plan or hope?
I think there's the post-implementation study, maybe.
Elaine?
Yeah, so I can answer that. The applicant has committed to conducting a post-implementation study. They will be collecting traffic counts at all of their study intersections. They will be conducting the traffic analysis at all of these study intersections, plus observations. If at any point it is determined that they are not meeting the traffic impact standards, they would need to return back to the planning board. I believe the planning board had also discussed additional consequences such as or further reducing the student population or adjusting more of the student staggering. And those are steps that can be taken beyond, for instance, more signal timing changes, more geometric changes. But there are steps that we had considered as part of that post-implementation study.
So they will be part of the conditions for approval. Is that right? There'll be specific standards and enforceable actions that could be taken. Is that right?
I would defer to Marianne for a more detailed answer on this, but the post-implementation study would be included as part of the conditions.
Yeah, there is a special permit that will have conditions, and
it's a yearly renewal.
Right.
So
and every year it's the initial years are going to be every year. And then
I think the first post-implementation study is even sooner than that.
Well, didn't we say
it's a few months after it opens,
Right.
and then there's 1 6 months. And
right, we'll be able to look at that in the first year renewal.
Right.
And if the renewal, if that review reveals that they're not meeting the expectations, then the permit will be adjusted to make sure that they're meeting the expectations. Right?
Thank you for the clarification.
All right, Walter, thank you.
Thank you.
They talked about that already.
Hmm?
That's been talked
Sarah?
about.
When?
Oh.
in the past.
Meeting after meeting.
Well, I know, but.
We can still hear you. We can still hear you, Walter.
And don't say anything you regret.
No, let's listen.
I also just want to say that I hope that Mr. Varma's intention is to work with the village should things not go as smoothly as we all hope before the year is up, right? Because we know that people will complain immediately that things aren't going well. And my intention is that you will be a good neighbor.
So you're going to volunteer corrections before we make you correct it on the first permit. Right? Say right. Say it into the mic.
Yes.
We got one more comment in the chat from John McCulloch about, and his comment is, what are the name and model numbers of rooftop HVAC units used to calculate the noise study for 76 North Broadway, parentheses, asked but not answered.
I think that's a detail that, I don't know, if you have that information.
They're not
Nowhere near that.
not near that. That's kind of
In our noise study, we do speculate standard units. They can study the report for the detail.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Nobody else is raising their hand to speak, and there are no additional comments in the chat.
Before we move forward, I forgot to mention that there was an extensive letter on various architects about the buildings that are being taken down. And we looked at that and the designation of protection for historic or significant, there's a due process that's available to do that. Planning board is not part of that due process. And this was reviewed over a year ago, and there was an effort to preserve that building. The code was written in an effort to preserve the building, and when it became clear that the building may need to come down, there was an effort. Mary Ann, you may have that.
Let me go through it. Back in up until October of 2024, for several months, the renderings or the plans showed the Woodcliff building there, the Woodcliff Manor there, and then because there were so many issues with the access to it for fire purposes, it turned out that there would have to be an enormous amount of extra coverage to be able to make that building safe, fire safe. The code does in a way give a bonus for keeping the building up. It says that doesn't count as your coverage. But the applicant found that they had to give up a lot more coverage than just the size of the building to work. So they went to the Board of Trustees because under the code you can get I think a bonus of 5% for something that furthers an important public benefit, and that additional is given by the Board of Trustees at their discretion. So on October 7th, anybody could check the minutes, the video of the meeting. On October 7th, 2024, the applicant went to the Board of Trustees to ask them, it was a letter before that, but asked them to have the 5% bonus for the public benefit. Their principal public benefit being keeping the house, but they also offered a sitting area that would be a public sitting area. Listen back and forth, and interestingly, at that meeting, nobody came to the Board of Trustees and said, yeah, that's a public benefit, keep the house up. Not a soul. I didn't remember one, and then I watched the video again today just to make sure. There were a few people who spoke, including Mr. McHale, who spoke against giving them a bonus for the public benefit. There was another person who got up who suggested taking the building down because he believed that the layout was kind of hamstrung by keeping the house there. And you had these blocks in front of it and you could hardly see the building, so he made a suggestion to take it. Anyway, so the end of the meeting, the Board of Trustees would say, oh, they didn't say we're not going to give it to you at that point, but they made it clear, well, what we would consider a public benefit is additional affordable units. And that's kind of where it was left. And then, so anyway, then the applicant came back, and the rest came back to this board with the Woodcliff building not there anymore. And the planning board took in, and then it went from there. So there was, this issue did come up. It's not like it wasn't looked at. It was looked at by you, it was looked at by the Board of Trustees.
Yeah, like I said, and I recall a meeting when John Siegel was mayor, that there was a list provided by various interests in historical and preservation type buildings, and the mayor, John Siegel said, just as I said, there's a due process to do this, and it's, the trustees are not part of that.
Yeah, and that wasn't related to this.
No, that wasn't related. I'm just giving some
Just in
historical
general,
background.
right.
That there was something like 51 properties, which I'm sure this was one of them. And the mayor just said, no, there's a due process to do that. And like I said here, the planning board is not part of that due process. So. Mike, you have anything to add to that? Lori? Yeah, I have nothing. Is there anything else on Zoom before we move to in person? We have in-person comments on
Jeremy Clausen, 91 North Broadway. Comment apropos of what was just said about the Woodcliff Manor. Just because it's not officially protected doesn't make it not historically important to this village. And on that point, I'm going to submit a petition signed by almost 1,000 people for keeping Woodcliff Manor and not tearing it down. And interestingly, and just because I was here all night, there was more interest in protecting an oak tree than there is in protecting this very historic and very important building to Irving.
There's a lot more things going on in that property than the oak tree.
I understand that, but there was a lot of commenting on the oak tree, the morality of it all. I heard it. I was sitting in the back. So did you. Thank you.
Thank you for the petition. Anybody else?
My name is David Kaplan. I live on Circle Drive, but our driveway is on Strawberry Lane. I've largely kept my mouth shut over the last year and a half, but best I can tell, the planning board is on the verge of approving this, and I at least want to speak for the record. I think the planning board gets all sorts of matters before it. I've sat through 3 hours of it tonight, oak trees and garages and driveways. I think what the board looks like it's about to do amounts to a colossal blunder, which will have disastrous and irreversible consequences for the village. We've lived here 34 years. I don't know how much longer we're going to be here. Maybe we'll be out skiing in Tahoe. But I think it's a huge mistake. 5 or so years ago, the trustees approved rezoning. It was a policy judgment. They kicked the implementation details down the road to the planning board largely. As I followed this over the last few years, even dating back to the prior applicant, you guys are tasked with the implementation details, but don't look at the larger policy. It's a cluster fudge arrangement where you've got these two different boards, in large part, I think, talking past each other. And I understand the importance to some of the historic building and of sight lines and of trees. Fair enough. But traffic is the main issue. Traffic is what's going to affect quality of life. And after all the discussion, which I've used important minutes of my life trying to understand all the details, 70-30, 60-60-40, traffic mitigation with lights and geometric adjustments. I've spent a few hours on the phone talking to senior people, engineers at DOT to try to understand all this. And at the end of the day, it's just not that complicated, it seems to me. If you go out on North Broadway at 7:45-ish in the morning on a school day, or 3:15-ish on a PM on a school day, there are a ton of cars out on the road. We've all gotten stuck in it. Maybe not people who live on South Broadway or on Main Street. It's a mess. If you add in hundreds of trips potentially during those, add whatever minutes you want, plus or minus to the times I mentioned. If you add in all those cars from people coming or delivering or picking up from the school, residents leaving to go to the train station during rush hour, accessory trucks like Amazon, FedEx, and UPS. If you add all of that, there's no place to put them. And all the mitigation measures in the world doesn't solve the problem. At best, it translates the problem further, mostly north and south. You got to put the cars somewhere. People aren't going to stop coming. Maybe the delivery and pickup can be adjusted, but where the car is going to go? They're going to go north to Tarrytown and south toward Dobbs. And maybe they'll be on side streets like me, because Strawberry is my in and out. There's no solution. And if you talk to the mitigation folks at DOT, as I've said, maybe you don't, as it were, create more traffic in Irvington on Broadway. There's no place to put them. You just extend the problem outward. And if someone had done a traffic simulation, you would have seen that. You do a traffic simulation where you can adjust the variables, how many cars, what hour, and you just see this metastasis of traffic expanding. It's not complicated. And if you add in safe streets in 3 or 13 years, if you have the number of lanes on North Broadway from 4 to 2, based on, my calculus understanding from high school, you're now doubling the number of cars. Maybe it's not so obvious, but it is. Again, I went over this with senior people at DOT and said, what am I missing and why you're not interested? And they said, you're not missing anything. We are interested, but we let the village do its thing. And then we come in and pass a judgment. I said, I don't know, maybe you guys should talk to each other. They laughed. What do I know? What I do know is, hearing tonight, that somehow post-mortem, there are going to be studies done on whether the mitigation efforts by traffic lights or traffic circles done with safe streets or before then, we'll look at how it's all working and make adjustments. I mean, come on. You can't unbuild the building. You can't unbuild the school. And I guarantee, I don't know the Varma folks, but, as somebody with a law degree who once practiced law before returning to a life of crime and journalism, I guarantee you that if you come to them and with your own traffic data and say, I don't know, you need to reduce the number of students you have by X%, or they need to still start coming at 11, or maybe we shouldn't have or maybe there shouldn't be as many tenants in the rentals, they're going to fight you. Mr. Varma is saying here tonight, right, is not enforceable. They will litigate. Of course they'll litigate. Once they win here and get to build what they want, they will fight tooth and nail. In good faith, they'll just tell you your numbers are wrong. I've always been curious to ask them, and maybe I missed this at a meeting. Have they ever been here at 7:45 in the morning? or 3:15 in the afternoon to look at the traffic situation now? My hunch is they haven't. Now, I recognize the policy judgment of the board 5 years. Its goal, I think there should be more affordable housing in the town. And if one of the prices we pay for it is to have an additional usage, a school, whatever it is, I get that. And I don't want to sound like a NIMBY character who's saying, I'm fully in favor of it, just don't do it in my neighborhood. I probably do say sound like that. But I live in the area, but I'm not skiing in Tahoe. And the traffic situation in the morning and the afternoon is untenable. It's only going to get worse, perhaps by orders of magnitude. And, you know, an honest you know what? That's the price you pay. In order to get more housing diversity and number, we're simply going to have to accept more traffic problems. I would vehemently disagree with that, but I would respect it. Instead, I'm hearing, no, it's not really a problem. We've got mitigation studies. We've got a traffic expert that we hired, and looking at it as basically as possible, it strikes me as utter baloney. And the Westchester, and I'm finishing up, I think I'm over 3 minutes.
We're not the trustees. We allow people to.
But 8 minutes, if you're wondering, it's 8 minutes and counting.
I didn't realize you were counting, but my wife has the 3-minute rule at home. For me, not her.
I'm hoping we institute one.
That was off the record. The Westchester landscape is, so is the national, but the Westchester landscape is littered with examples of the best intentions and statements about what traffic's going to be not happening. And you go over the Ashford Avenue Bridge at the wrong time, daylight. You drive north toward 287 at the wrong time in the afternoon. You go over, if for some reason you have that need, to Mamaroneck, Eastchester, where there are 5 roads gathering, and you go to Popham Road in Scarsdale, and there's always a cluster fudge of traffic. One day, I think, you're going to have that here, and people, long after you're gone, and long after I'm gone, in 5 or 15 years, people are going to say, who on earth created that? How did we let that happen? And the answer is going to be, go back to 2026, and the planning board voted for it. I would ask you guys, after all the details and studies of minutia, to think of the larger picture and use the discretion that you have to consider rejecting the proposal. I don't think, Marianne may disagree, but I don't think the code makes you do this. I think you have discretion to go either way.
Thank you. And we have a very thoughtful membership here on the board. Thank you.
Good evening, it's Peter McCallick from Strawberry. And I just wanted to ask about the road ahead. Whatever you can tell us would be appreciated. We just got this at the door, and it sounds like it's going to be revised.
If anybody has further comment on the analysis to date that Ashley presented, you're welcome to make any comment between now and the next meeting.
Okay.
I'm not sure what we'll do at the next meeting, but depending on whatever we hear.
Will there also be like a formal, will the actual EAF Part 2 form be filled out by the board? I think there was an episode we did that.
Marianne, did we do that?
We did it. The EAF Part 2 was filled out.
When was that?
I have to check the minute.
Oh, if you mean from back in January 2025, that one?
Probably, I don't remember.
Is there a version of that form somewhere that we can refer to where it's actually filled out?
I'm pretty sure we did.
I'll
Mary Ann
look
will
for it.
check.
I'll look for it.
Thank you.
Time's up.
So just my brother was asking about the garbage rooms.
Yeah, I know, I saw the
It was
letter.
clear. If it wasn't clear, he's asking in part because he thinks that larger rooms would mean fewer parking spots.
Yeah.
So that would affect
Yeah.
the parking.
Mike Bufuco also has
Yes.
this.
Thank you. Will there be a re-referral to the ARB in light of what commentary?
I don't know, we have to re-refer. You're gonna go back to them? Yeah, they're going back.
I mean, before the recommendation report phase, I mean, there's a special section in the MFO about a special referral just, I think at the early, before the 9-5 referral that usually happens.
I think you're going back at the next meeting.
Okay, that's just not,
Peter, on the EAF, no. We went through the EAF part 2 to identify what you thought might be the issues. That was, so it was never completed, just to identify what the issues were, and then they'll be able to go back and decide whether there's any, with mitigation, whether there's any significant.
thank you. And is that something that would be happening in a meeting?
Yeah, that would happen at a meeting.
Okay, thank you. So I'm skipping over a bunch of stuff because of that. I just wanted to point out, I believe it was Ed himself, correct me if I'm wrong, did ask about the HVA, the rooftop units at the last meeting or the meeting before that. He asked for multiple configurations and for specs on the units. And as I understand it, the only noise report that ever said anything about specific units was the very first one from January 2025. They mentioned 2 train models. They were pulled back. I think it's just a fair question that there is no current noise report that says anything about which units. So if there are no units, then you can't really tell what the impact would be at the property line, which is what the code requires. So is there a model? I guess that's just what we're wondering.
Is Ashley still around?
Yes, I'm still here.
Ashley, did you hear that about there was a noise section in your report?
So it was the report that was prepared by the applicant's team, and we reviewed it for methodology and for their conclusions. And I believe they modeled it based on what they're projecting the systems to be. We did not see.
Did it include the AC?
It did include the AC. I don't recall if it has specific models specified. Oftentimes it has a placeholder model at this stage in the process. What sometimes boards can do is require a basically once the building is constructed and the units are operational, doing a post-construction noise monitoring study to ensure that the units that are installed are operating as modeled. And if they're not, you could have them corrected with additional noise buffering.
And you have approval during.
Well, we have the code, and you can add to your special permit or your conditions if you like.
Can you just provide us with the model that you're gonna use, and then we'll see how it matches up to what was in the noise study?
We'll review the noise report and specify exactly what was listed. You can't really specify models today for product that may be installed 2 years because they do change often. So they, like Ashley said, generally in all noise reports, they take standards and placeholders for standard equipments. And that's generally how a report is created or demonstrated.
I guess my only question then is, can we have a placeholder model then for the new units that are shown in the most recent submissions, the 18 units, which are bigger than the ones that were shown back in January 2025? I'm just,
Yeah, that, I mean, that sounds reasonable to me. You should give us a placeholder unit that can be judged.
I can provide what was there, what is placeholder unit.
okay. Thank you very much. And I just want to make sure I understood so there are, by my count, 3 outstanding studies. So hydrology, traffic, and noise. What I mean by that is actual reports, narrative that a normal person can sit down and read. I remember months ago when the village attorney said something along the lines of how the traffic stuff is basically indecipherable. And I agree with that. I think other people do too. Does that mean there will be no written traffic study? Is that what I'm hearing?
No written, what do you think?
There definitely was a written traffic study.
When I said that it was indecipherable, I meant those pages with all the
Right.
numbers, but in front of it, it's all decipherable. And I think all of Elaine's reports have been more than decipherable.
Yes. Yes. What I mean is the last actual traffic study was from September 2024. Everything since then has been addenda.
There's been an aggregate of traffic information.
Okay.
Been evolving to the point where we have no objections to it. I mean, they just made a presentation that it works with the code. Now, you have to understand, as you well know, the code, the objective code, has an allowable increase in it. So, and it's within that, it's in the ceiling. It's a little bit more than the baseline of whenever that year was, 23, 22. It's more than the baseline, but less than the cap that the trustees created when they passed the code.
Okay.
Caesar, I want to clarify one other thing, Peter, because you asked, when I said the board would be going through the part 2 to do their final, secret determination. The point of raising all the issues tonight was to see if there's any other open issues. So when they're going through it, at that point, I don't think the board is going to want to hear new issues. So if you've got issues now, you said, oh, so I'll skip over these now, because that wouldn't be the time to raise them, because I think the next time the board, unless they hear of new environmental issues, I think the board's ready to go through it and check the boxes. So if you've got other things you want looked at, now
I do,
would be the
but I
time to
did
raise
just
it.
get this, and I think I would feel.
Okay, well, submit something in writing.
I will.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sooner rather than, yeah.
To address his previous question, January 21, 26 noise report, page 14 clearly specifies model units. I urge him to reread all reports.
Okay, well, when you replace one report with subsequent reports that don't have the model units, you can only assume that that is no longer relevant. The most recent noise study does not mention.
I think we covered the AC. They're going to supply.
Thank you very much. Okay. But I think I could have sworn, Chairman Freddie, that you asked for a revised noise report, one that measured the impacts at the property line.
You asked, what was the question? The equivalent?
That they share the unit that was used to measure the noise.
There.
Units specified in the report.
It is.
Now you've asked us to provide a placeholder unit.
Well,
specific.
that's the, I mean,
That is a placeholder.
that is the placeholder. I understand.
I got lost. I forgot what the placeholder. The terminology went out of my head.
It further defines that we are utilizing these units with 55 to 75 dBA, but we are even taking further reduced as a dBA. So it clearly states that.
All right, let's move on from the AC.
Okay, so does that mean there will not be a revised noise report? That is correct.
Yeah, because my guess is the noise report assumed something at that number.
Yeah.
And you're saying it won't be higher than that number.
Correct. Okay, I am asking because at that last meeting, Chairman Freddie, you remember, I kind of, I got excited. I asked a couple of questions. You specifically asked them to revise the noise report, measuring the impacts at the property line as opposed to at the neighboring houses. That was your ask.
Yeah.
So that is.
Actually, when you analyze the noise analysis.
Take a look at that question. So the question is whether the noise was analyzed at the property line instead of the houses?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll take a look and see where that was.
Okay.
Okay.
And we'll provide any comments.
And the hydrology, I don't think, I mean, there was a reference in the cover letter to the submission to a revised hydrology analysis. It was not in the submission. I mean, if they're referring to it, it's got to be in here.
I don't know about a revise. I think they, you know,
In their cover letter, they refer to a revised hydrology report, which is not actually in the submission.
the drainage is pretty much under
Drainage
control.
is done.
Yeah, I mean, there's a subsurface
Fine
system.
tuning to do, but it's done.
In their own, I'm sorry, okay. I know this is exhausting, but I mean, even in their own commentary, they refer to a revised hydrology report that is coming, which never landed.
Do you have one?
You know,
Yeah,
In the cover letter,
Peter, if you could show us in writing what you're looking for, because nobody knows what, trying to figure out what you're asking for. So if you could if you can show us in there.
a submission was made for this meeting. There was a cover letter to that submission that specifically refers to a revised hydrology report in the materials. It's not there. Okay, so I'm not sure how a KRF can review something that does not exist.
Is that something that Doug would be addressing, Ed?
Well, yeah.
I'll discuss it with Doug when he gets back.
Well, the drainage is being reviewed by our engineer, rather than a KRF.
Okay,
we'll make sure that Ron and Ed is on top of it. I mean, the drainage has been a major issue because Route 9 can't take it, so it has to be retained on site. And so far as I know, it's being retained on site. That 8-inch pipe that flows full onto Broadway is not going to be there anymore. Right, Ed?
That's the fine detail we're working on.
But just Peter, you're saying there was no hydrology report attached, but it referred to one.
That's right.
And so you're wondering if
there was
it's the
one-
old one or there's a new one coming.
there was one forecasted 2-3 months ago. There was one referred to again in the cover letter for today. And
Will you share the cover letter from today?
Yeah, read it. Read the part about the hydrology. Which,
Put that on the board.
You have access still?
The first reference in A is to the combined plan set that lists all the plans that were submitted. We have the DTS Provident Fire Apparatus Turning Movement Sketch. C is the Stormwater Summary Report, last revised through 18/20/26. Stonefield Response Letter is D. E is the zoning and lot coverage and FAR analysis. F, details Provident Traffic Response. G is the revised rules, and H is the revised EAF Part 1 narrative with index. So
I was referring to this, sorry to interrupt, but it's C that I was referring to. What is that?
The stormwater analysis.
And was that in your package though?
Yes. It is.
That 100,
Rest assured, the stormwater system is under full review by Ed and Doug Hahn. Stormwater drainage is important, as I said, because it impacts Broadway. Not going to go unattended.
On Engineering's been reviewing them.
Okay, it's not in the public materials. That's all I can say.
Maybe a recent one, but it's going to be there.
Okay. My understanding was that everything that they submit is a public document.
Is there a stormwater plan? So it must be somewhere in.
What are you asking me?
ahead, no, I'm
Just
asking
look
you.
at it, it's online, you can just look at
Everything we
what's
have
online.
goes online.
So if it was submitted at some point in the past, the stormwater plan, if it was submitted, it's in the record, correct? Ed,
Everything we have is online, everything.
and the stormwater is part of everything.
Kathy, are you guys looking at your submission, your entire submission? Yeah.
But Peter, you're saying you didn't see it.
And Peter, if it's not there, it will be.
Okay, you understand, we get this thing at the door. I understand people have very busy schedules and stuff comes out at the last minute. I do it all the time myself. But it's just a little concerning that you are reading AKRF saying that they've reviewed documents.
They don't do stormwater. Consultant engineer Doug Hahn and Ed.
Again, this is not nearly, I just bring this up as the kind of thing that I just don't understand, right? I think on at least 3 times I've noted there are 4 historic sites, not 3 historic sites, that the Chris website is wrong. The Strawberry Hill Gatehouse, I think that's number 9 Strawberry Lane, is the 4th site that was left off of the Chris inventory. That house sits in Strawberry Lane. It's got a negative setback. And it is 20 feet away from this property. I don't see a reference to here at all, right? That is the historic property that would be the most affected.
Actually, you'll take a look at that?
We'll take a look at that.
I'm skipping lots of stuff here. I just bring up the complete streets idea. Again, the idea that there was a sensitivity analysis done is just nuts. I don't mean to be rude, but again, I repeatedly pointed this out, followed it up with documentation. The sensitivity analysis for complete streets was done on the 2018 version of that project. Already obsolete at the time that they did that sensitivity analysis. So they studied the 3-lane version of it that had the center turning lane, not the 2-lane version. So without understanding the true magnitude of the impacts, I don't know how we can say that we actually have studied it, right? Even if you believe, and I completely understand where you're coming from, even if you believe there's only a 25% chance that complete streets will become a reality, if the magnitude of the impacts is off the charts, then that has to factor into the risk of the project, right? It's the probability and the magnitude together that create the risk assessment. So I don't see how it does anyone any good to have a sensitivity analysis for a project that was left behind in 2024.
Elaine, you have any thoughts on that?
So I'll confirm which version of the Complete Streets alternative they used, but I do want to point out that myself and Carlito have been coordinating with DOT on this. The DOT has been sent the traffic study, and actually they were sent the older traffic study, which had higher traffic volumes and thereby was more conservative. So DOT is looking at the traffic volumes of this study as part of their assessment. And that's when DOT designs their Complete Streets project, they're designing it such that that the DOT intersections at Broadway does not fail. So they're trying to make sure that Broadway operates as efficiently as possible, which I think is something we all would agree on. But regardless, this is something that's been looked at, if not by the applicant in some form, but also by DOT. So I have no issues with it.
When you said they're looking at it, or they looked at it in past tense?
So DOT, as part of their draft design, and they conduct an analysis. They go through a similar process that we do. They do a full synchro analysis of Broadway. And as part of that, in their future conditions, they included the Varma traffic volumes. And so it's already included in their analysis and is being used as their basis for design.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick points. Susan Nolan asked a couple of months ago for a different kind of visual impact assessment. She asked specifically for that rendering where it's the elevations seen from the perspective of Broadway. She asked to see the neighboring houses in that picture 2 months ago. I still don't see it.
They're working with Susan Nolan towards an acceptable planting plan. And you mentioned three reports. There's actually a fourth. It's a planting plan. So Susan Nolan is actively working on it. Okay. When I spoke to her, she seemed fine with everything that was done. So
okay, and then the 34-inch tree that came up earlier tonight, the oak tree. Thank you for bringing that up.
Again, it's a small part of a major issues with that site, but it is part of it.
I only bring it up because it reminded me that there's another 34-inch tree on that lot. It's the ginkgo, 175, 200 years old. It was, according to the tree commission, the second best tree on that lot. As far as I can tell, it is now, there was initially an attempt to preserve it, is now on the removal list, unless I missed something in the very most recent comments, which have not been made public yet.
The tree commission and Suzanne are working together, so whatever comes out is their joint opinion.
Okay. I'm saying the stated reason for removing that 175-year-old tree
I'm not a tree person. I'm leaving that to Suzanne and the tree commission.
It just gets to my point that the last point is, as I mentioned two months ago, the planning board is also responsible for making sure that the critical root zones of shrubs are also protected, because they are covered by our tree ordinance. You specifically asked the applicant to look into it. I have not heard anything about it, and their tree schedule still does not show anything about shrubs.
I don't do that. Susan Nolan, I rely 100% on her, so I will take a note and remind her about root protection.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room?
Caesar, Arthur Chavon is requesting that you read his letter. Letter from his architects.
Well, I mean, I have to bring it up on my phone. You got it here? I mean, we'll do that, but I have to, last time I went to a trustee meeting, they don't read letters, but we will. This is to dear Chairman Manfredi and members of the planning board. The undersigned architects preservationists call on the planning board to reject the demolition of Woodcliff Mansion by Varma in connection with the development of 76 North Broadway. The MFO zoning requires that historic buildings be adequately reused to the greatest extent practicable. The proposal currently under consideration violates that provision. Prominent architect and preservationist Joseph Pell Lombardi, the owner and restorer of Irvington's Octagon House, has stressed the architectural importance of the Woodcliff Mansion. In a previous letter to the planning board, he wrote that it would be a tragic mistake not to preserve and repurpose this important architectural asset. Mr. Lombardi is one of the signers of this letter. Historic preservationist Marissa Marvelli had pointed out that of approximately 11 manor houses depicted on the Beers map of 1868, only 2 survive today in Irvington, and only Woodcliff still retains the integrity as a manor. It is therefore an essential contributor to Irvington's distinctive history and sense of place. She has noted that its facade is an early 20th century colonial revival update to the 19th century original, which proves the adaptability of the building and is evidence that it can be preserved in a sensitive and appropriate manner. It need not be destroyed or frozen in time. Robert Davis, co-director of the Westchester County Historical Society, has written that as the last extant manor house visible along the east side of Broadway, Whitcliffe and its property is extremely important to overall historic character of Irvington. She noted that if construction blocks the view of this magnificent building from Broadway, the gateway to the historic district of Irvington, its sense of time and place is lost forever. As important, the ability of the public to enjoy the appreciation, its outstanding craftsmanship, architecture, and extraordinary heritage will be obliterated. The site is included in the local open space inventory, which notes Whitcliffe's historic significance as the birthplace of J.P. Morgan Jr. This designation means that public views of the site, including the mansion, should be treated as aesthetic resources. The planning board, if it allows the demolition of Whitcliffe's defining feature of Irvington's great grand gateway, would erase the history of the site and eliminate this aesthetic resource. The loss of significance, no amount of landscaping can do. The village board had the opportunity to mandate the preservation of Whitcliffe in exchange for the generous coverage bonuses that were granted to Vollmer. That it did not do so, in our view, is striking and sad. The village board did grant its coverage bonus in exchange for an additional moderate income unit. We intend to urge the village board to grant the bonuses only in exchange for the additional moderate income unit plus preservation of Whitcliffe. In the meantime, however, it is the planning board's role to decide whether the applicant's effort to preserve Whitcliffe's amount to the greatest extent practical. This letter argues that they clearly do not. Furthermore, to evaluate this proposal, the planning board must require a competitive east-west site section that runs the entire distance from the west side of Broadway to the highest point on the site, showing the existing structures in comparison to the proposed. Whitcliffe has the potential to add significant qualitative value to Vollmer's development. Its materials and level of detail, arguably unaffordable to replicate, would enhance and elevate any development on the site. Obtaining this significant architectural gem that could serve so many valuable functions is an unrealized gift to Vollmer. With neither foresight nor sensitivity, Vollmer has chosen to spend money to destroy it, inexplicably throwing away 0.05 of free FAR and replacing its magnificent reusable spaces with a building of mind-numbing mediocrity. Final destruction of Whitcliffe directly contradicts Irvington's goals towards sustainability. The sheer wastefulness of materials and energy required for its original construction, its demolition, and its disposal is shameful. Its reuse, on the other hand, would be a significant opportunity to act on the village's admirable ambitions for whole life carbon stewardship. The senseless desecration of Whitcliffe would be a tragedy, leaving us with only the unfulfilling memory of the manors which originally lined Broadway. And we have Earl Everett Ferguson. Incidentally, a year ago, Earl did speak on this issue. Joseph Pell Lombardi, architect, and Michael Lombardi from the office of Joseph Pell Lombardi. Thank you.
There were two other names on there, I believe.
Joseph Lombardi, Michael Lombardi. Am I missing something?
Maybe on a different page.
There's another page.
Oh.
And it
Just say him.
Oh, is Arthur?
Arthur Chabon, probably.
I only have one page.
No, I know, but is Arthur one of the?
Yeah,
Okay, so
Peter Baderi
Oh, Peter Baderi, oh, because those were.
and Arthur
Chabon.
Chabon.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, anybody else? Well, I think we're done. Anybody on the board want to have any comment?
Nothing.
Nope. All right, it's 11:15, the meeting of April 8th.
10:40.
10:45, yeah.
Seems like you.
Seems like it. After reading that. By the way, that was a very well put together letter, but like I said, there is a due process involved, and the planning board is not part of that due process. The planning board meeting of April 8th, 2026 is closed.